What is that? I never know when to do the intro, Silas. Do we have intro music there that I can't hear, or is it silent?
Yeah, we got the intro music playing.
Oh, I just don't hear it.
Yeah, okay. You can't hear it. Yeah.
I never know when to go. I'll wait for the graphic. It's always like an awkward silence. But hey, everyone, welcome back to Tour Life. Today is Tuesday, May 28th, and we have a big show for everyone. Before we get into it, one of the reasons why it's going to be a big show, you might not even know this. Silas just learned about this a few minutes before the show. Open chat. For the first time in I don't know how long, we have open chat. So you no longer have to be a member to be able to chat. Now, a lot of people might be wondering what's going on. I want to kind of explain everything that's going down right now. So initially we had this idea of having the chat just be members only. Now, I like that to a certain standpoint, but I feel like it was potentially not allowing every thought and idea to get across to us. And I think also it might have been a little bit of a pushing some people away from maybe engaging. Our chat right now, I love it. I love the people in there, and we'll still see everyone with their that are members, right? So you still have your badges, your names, and all that. And Silas will still pull people's chats on the screens. And if you're a member, you probably will pop up there more. But we're not really seeing too much people coming in and saying something and then leaving or sticking around and debating in the chat. So hopefully this does this. Also, we're going to kind of, I'm going to look too to see what the price range. And if you're listening to us on Apple or Spotify, this does nothing for you. So you guys can skip ahead a little bit. I'm going to look at the price to see if I can drop it down even more. I think it's at the lowest price, but I'm going to see if I can do that. And also, if you did pay for higher tiers and you're like, hey, I paid for this tier and I didn't get this, and this, please reach out to me and I'll make it right for you. But I think going forward, Yuli, Tour Life Crew is still going to exist. It's just going to exist in chat in the form of badges and their chat basically sticking out more. That's where it's going to exist.
Yeah, and keep it healthy in the chat too. Make sure you keep it healthy. Be nice. Have nice debates. Don't get at each other's buttons too much.
Yes.
No cussing. You know the drill. Keep it clean in there for us.
So if anyone is upset with this, please reach out to me. This was all my idea and my doing. Silas and Yuli are not involved with this decision. So come after me if you don't like it, and hopefully I can work it out. All right. With that being said, big episode tonight, Yuli. We have one of the legends of the game, Nate Doss, and something that I think disc golf definitely needs is more of these legends be put out in front. I think Paul Macbeth had a great quote when he won USDGC, saying that he would love to see Ken Climo being more involved with disc golf, which it seems like he has been, with Ken Climo coming back and doing that skins match, which was incredible. But something that we're lacking, and even EDWIN Stats, who can pull statistics out of thin air, he was having a hard time finding statistics about Nate Doss, one of the best disc golfers to ever do it. He was having a hard time finding stuff on this guy.
Yeah.
So that is a gray area. That is like a black hole or sunken hole, whatever the terminology you want to use in disc golf. And hopefully some people, Silas even said it. He said, I don't really know much about Nate Doss. Like, we hear about the people, we hear about these names, but we don't know much. So hopefully we can kind of, fill that story, fill that book up a little bit for you guys tonight with Nate Doss. And at no better time than him coming back to play an event for the first time in years. So we will hear all about that. We've got EDWIN Stats to go over. We do not have a wild story of the week. So if you guys have a wild story, please send it in to WildStoryTour@gmail.com. WildStoryTour@gmail.com. And then we're going to open it up to questions at the very end. But before we get into all that, Yuli, how's it going, brother?
I was going to rewind it back a little bit about the legends of the game too, because I had a guy come up to me, legend himself, won't mention his name, but he was like, you know what? Love Tour Life. I listen every single week. I just wish you guys would bring up some more old stories from the people back in the day from my generation, which was a long time ago, but it got me thinking for sure. And you're right on pace with being able to have some of those guests come on here and hear about people who really started this for us. So Nate Doss, he really wasn't back in this generation, but even going back, it was super fun having like Brian Schwaberger on. That was a great episode that I really.
We need to do that more.
just to bridge the gap a little bit, because a lot of the people who listen are from that generation as well, and I'm sure they'd be excited to have people on there. Even like having a guy like Brinster come on, who's just been around forever. USDGC champion, like different things like that would be fantastic. Kind of the same generation as Nate Doss, but my week was awesome. I got to go home again. Was there for a week. I didn't do any disc golf. I played the day before I came out here. My shoulder's been bothering me a little bit again, but I just kind of relaxed. I went and played some golf here and there, which doesn't affect my shoulder at all. So I find myself doing that more and more often. Hung out with my wife. My family came over for the weekend, and we went to a rodeo together along with one of my buddies, Dan, and that was a blast. That's about it, man. Yeah, didn't do much. I was keeping a good eye on like all the little A tiers going around and stuff, watching where my friends were going and how that was going on. And yeah, it was a good week, man.
Shout out to Michael Kern, says, can't believe it's been a year. Woo. Shout out to Pee Wee, my OG homie. Member for 12 months. Let's go.
Wow.
Love to see that. Yeah, it's starting. We're starting to have Tour Life crew people get over 365 days of membership, which is wild. So
I can't believe we've been doing it for over a year. That's what's crazy to me.
Yeah, this is 72, and I don't think we've missed a week. So did we miss a week, Silas? Was there 1 week that we missed? I can't remember.
I think we missed 1 week. Yeah, I think one.
Really? Was it the Europe week?
No, I want to say, was it around Christmas or something? I think someone might need to fact check us there of when
it might have been at Christmas time.
Because we're on episode 72. So fact check us and see if you go back 72 weeks, was that when we first started? I feel like we didn't miss one though, Silas.
I know.
think maybe
you know what? Maybe
you missed one.
I missed one, but then we also did at least one post-produced, not live.
Yeah, we recorded
I know that. So
yeah, I'm wondering maybe
that
counts. Yeah, I wonder if that counts. If we filmed one prior because we knew we couldn't do it on the day. Chris Meadows is saying there might have been one actually. So regardless though, 72 episodes. Wow, it's been flying by. And this is probably one of the ones I'm most been looking forward to. Because
me too.
I just haven't had that many conversations. I don't know if I actually have ever had a conversation with Nate because he's never actually at the event.
He's a good talk. It's gonna be fun. I was talking to my wife right before I got on, and I'm like, man, I'm excited about today's episode. I get to talk to Nate. I haven't talked to him in a long time, and I got a lot of questions, and I know you have a lot of questions for him. He's really the guy that can totally bridge the gap because we won't get into it, but being able to go to him about what it was like then, and then he's commentating on it now. You know what I mean? And he's been in person, like here in Portland, and being able to see Eagle get that crazy eagle putt on hole 18 here at Portland. I mean, that's just got to be kind of a crazy shot for somebody who hasn't been on the tour in a couple of years to watch happen, and that's like the norm. You know what I mean? So I'm excited to see stuff like that. Yeah, or questions like that.
It's gonna be very interesting to kind of see where he's at. But before we get him on here, I thought we should pull up. Edwin Stats did a little player breakdown, so I thought we should pull it up to kind of show. Maybe some people that are not as familiar with Nate Doss, exactly how dominant of a player this guy was back when he was playing. So we won't go over his attributes right now because we will leave that. I always like showing players when they come on what their attributes are based off of their statistics and what Edwin Stats is basically throwing together. But this is his stats and rankings from 2016 to 2018. So you would say, Yuli, this is a little bit past when he was probably dominant, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But this is kind of the statistics that we have to go with. Edwin did his best to try to dig up as much as he could, and this is what we're left with. So birdie rate, he was 8th on tour with 43%. Fairway hit percentage 4th with 72. That makes a lot of sense. The guy was a fairway finder. Greens and regulation for Circle 1 was 45%, which was 3rd. Greens and regulations for Circle 2 was 4th at 67%. His OB rate, he like never threw it out of bounds, 6%. That also might have to do with courses just didn't have a lot of out of bounds as well. But he was 3rd on tour with OB rate, so he still was throwing it way less OB than others. He was 8th in scrambling, 27th in Circle 1 X putting. And do you think that's probably his biggest like Achilles heel was his Circle 1 putting? He was at
Absolutely
78%. Yeah. That's in today's standards, that's pretty low for Circle
for sure.
1.
For sure. But you got to think that there wasn't a lot of people just making everything back then as
Correct.
well. That wasn't a thing. I would say that he was right around average to above average putter.
Yeah, because I'm looking at this. He was 20% from Circle 2, and that was 12th on tour. No shot. And maybe, Edwin, you can give us the stats. I don't think 20% gets you close to 12th right now on tour from Circle 2.
No.
Finish rates. So this is 156 events. He won 8% of them. He took the podium 31% of the time. He top 10'd at 77%, and he got cash at 97%. He has 13 total elite and major wins, 4 major wins, 3 world championships, career earnings of $258,000, and an average career finish of 9.5. Wow. So and
his span was long for a winner.
Mm-hmm.
It started in 2005 when he won an elite series. Well, I think he just won the Worlds in 2005, and then he got his last win in 2006 or 16,
17. Green
2017
GMC. He won in 2017. So yeah, it spanned over a decade of wins.
That's really good. It's a long streak,
and also kind of that pre-Paul Ricky era to post Paul, or not post, but during Paul and Ricky's era, still to win, right? So you kind of going through eras. 20% C2 putting is currently ranked 82nd on tour. Yeah.
Yeah, people have gotten better.
Yeah, and this is what we've talked about with anything. Like, you know, you look at how people in the NBA are shooting threes. Like, they're shooting threes at a ridiculous rate compared to what players were shooting 30, 40 years ago, right? And so it's not a knock.
With a higher percentage. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not a knock on it's definitely not a knock on the player. It's just everyone's gotten a lot better. It's just how you know, when you see someone else do it, then all of a sudden it just elevates. So gonna be really interesting. I think he's gonna join us probably around the top of the hour, or sorry, at 8:30. So in about 15 seconds or 15 minutes or so, he'll be joining us. But before he does that, Yuli, I thought a cool little thought exercise that we could do would be I saw this on a Facebook page or something like that. Let's build out the President's Cup team. That's coming around.
Oh, perfect.
Right? That's not too far off. So let's take out any rules and regulations of like how to do it. And let's say like right now, if we had to make the USA team, who are we sending over to take down the Europeans? And I will the other thing I was going to say, how do we want to do the European side? I guess we can just collaborate on the European side as well on who we think should be on the European side. But I think the USA side is going to be more fun to like think about.
We'll let them build their team.
Okay, they build their team. Let's just build USA.
We don't care. We don't care, man.
Okay, let's build USA. So I think the first thing we should do is look on the FPO side.
Okay.
We get two FPO players. Does Owen Scoggins count?
What do you mean? Yes, of course.
Well, she wasn't born. I don't know. I don't know how the rules and regulations work. Is it literally just anyone that's not born in Europe? Because she wasn't born in the United States, right? Is what someone told me.
Oh, I hear what you're saying.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Do they have to be?
yeah.
Do they have to be born in the United States?
Well, I don't know.
I feel like they
That's
have
a
to
good
be.
question.
I feel like I think
you're right.
I think you have to be. So I don't think we can. I don't think she can play on Team USA.
Well,
She is a USA citizen, though.
Yes, I would say we. Well, then we could. Are we going to take Simon? Like, no.
No, because I think he
he's
still has a citizenship with Germany.
Yeah, but
Germany.
if I had a citizenship somewhere else as well, I wouldn't be able to play for them.
No, I think if you have dual citizenship, I think you can pick.
Really?
Okay, so we're gonna say Owen has citizenship. The chat is on our side. We're taking Owen.
Owen and Missy, then done.
Owen and Missy. Yes,
That's got to be it.
I was thinking Holland, but I gotta take Missy in the big time situation.
Yeah, we go Missy and Owen.
We send over Missy and Owen, and we pray to the gods above.
We don't need to pray with Missy, man. She's
They haven't won though, Yuli.
Dude, Missy, come on. Missy can go against any. Well, we're gonna have to put Missy against Kristen.
See, that's the interesting thing. I think we actually
sacrifice.
I think whoever's playing better that week, we sacrifice them to Kristen, and then whoever's playing the best, the other person gets sacrificed to Kristen, and then they try to take down probably Evelina, the person that's playing the best.
Yeah.
I don't think you send your best against Kristen. I think you gotta try to send
you do. I think Missy can beat Kristen. It's a match play deal. It's a completely different.
But it's not a. It's no. What I'm saying is
I
don't disagree with you. I don't disagree. I think Missy
disagree
can.
with you too.
I think Missy can beat him. But I think we try to just go for the wash. If we can walk away FPO 1v1, 1-1,
you're right.
I think I'm happy with that. So what is the chances to get the best 1-1? We send the whoever's playing the worst, because I think Missy and Owen, it's kind of a coin flip. So you got to go off of who's playing the best and who likes the course. Okay, so I think we agree there. All right, MPO, we almost
agree.
we disagree on the strategy. We agree on the players.
Yes.
Okay, MPO, we have 6 guys.
Right.
6 guys.
Calvin, number 1.
Calvin for sure.
AB.
I think you gotta go Gannon AB.
Without a doubt.
I think you gotta go Gannon AB.
And here's where it gets dicey.
After this, now we gotta start figuring out how what do we want to do here. Ricky?
100%.
Okay, Ricky, okay. He's done it before. He's gone over there. Now, this is where it's tough because the next one's on the list. Okay, the next one's on the list would be Kyle Klein, Isaac Robinson, Eagle, Matty O, Cole Rodolin, Aaron Gossage.
I'm throwing in a wild card on. I'm throwing in 2 wild cards here, just for.
You can't say Paul Macbeth's a wild card because
I'm not.
He's playing really well right now. I think you might have to send him too. But go ahead.
Here's my wild cards. I'm gonna say I'm throwing in Paul because it's just like this guy's won it for us before.
Okay.
And he's Paul Macbeth.
He's playing really good too right now.
Yes, but I don't know, man. Ezra Robinson's playing really good, and I think he's playing better than Isaac. And so
I agree.
That's food for thought.
I agree.
That's food for thought. And then this one is
but we got to think about the course. We got to think about the course.
I know, but listen to the next guy who was also playing crazy good. Andrew Presnell. And nobody's thinking of Andrew.
I don't like him on European. I don't like him at the European Open.
I'm just saying.
I don't like him on that course.
But then he goes to GBO the week after and takes a little top 8. Like he's playing. He's kind of that guy right now.
I know he is
That's
playing
a wide
good.
open. That's a wide open. Here's what I'll say, and I'm gonna get killed for this. But that's okay because it's our podcast, and I always say the truth on here. I'm taking.
You say your truth. You say your truth.
Yes. I'm saying my truth, and I think I'll take Prez over Isaac right now. Prez over Isaac right now.
I don't hate that.
Fresh off a major. Top 10s.
I don't think Isaac's getting in though.
Into what?
I don't think I'd throw Isaac in there. You only get
He's
6.
A world champ, though. I don't know. How
you only get 6 guys. You only get 6 guys. We're locked in on 4. If you tell me Macbeth is in, which I won't disagree. I think that's a fine pick if he's playing well. I think that's fine. Kyle Klein. That's hard for me to put Fresno over Kyle Klein. I think their games are fairly similar, and Kyle has been more consistent for a much longer time.
I got to see what Prez did at the OTB. Was he even there?
Was Prez? I don't think he was. I don't think he was. No.
Okay,
no.
So see, maybe this week and the next few weeks are a big decider for these guys, but I think we're on track, and I'm with you with Kyle Klein. I don't know how you would leave him off the list.
But also, what if Eagle is just like, hey, you guys thought I was trash. I'm still like, if he goes out and wins Portland Open, he's in. Because when he's healthy, he's one of the top 3 players in the world. If he's healthy, you cannot keep him off the list.
There's also a thing called earning your spot. But
that's now, this is not us. We're trying to create the super team here.
Yeah, I know. But that's what I'm saying. Trending.
Like LeBron
and stuff,
James hasn't played all year. We're not going to put him on the Olympic team.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are.
That's what I'm saying.
Sure.
If Eagle's not playing all year and he's like, guys, I'm healthy, I'm ready to go, you're going to put him on the bench?
Well, same with Macbeth. You can't.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think Paul still has the ability to do that.
I just wanted to throw Prez in there because of the big win and then a nice little follow-up with an 8.
I know, but this is where
I thought I was like, dude, Prez is done. Like, that was nice, but he's going to top 20 here. That's good. But then he pops a top 8. Maybe it unlocks something with the kid.
But this is the question you have to have. If you're the captain, Yuli, of this team, and you're saying, I'm taking Prez, and he goes over there and lays an egg, you're not going to be the captain next year. You're out. Versus if you take Kyle Klein or you take Eagle and they go over and don't play well, your job security's there.
I feel like someday
you're going out on a limb with Prez.
Someday I may have a chance to captain the team, maybe someday, and I'm hoping someday. It's like a goal that I would love to do.
I think you'd make a great captain.
But I don't want to captain until we get a loss, bro. Like, I don't want to be that guy. Like, I'm good, dude. I'm good.
You don't want to be the first one?
I might never captain the team. I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding. But I do believe that we got it kind of right. It's just tough once you get down to the nitty-gritty at the end.
Does USA win if they send this team? There's someone in the chat. I'm not going to say their name because I don't want to blast them. We send Yuli, Big Germ, Doss, Philo, Sexton, Terry Miller. Does USA get it done?
We get walloped. We get absolutely shredded, dude. That's such a bad. That would be so bad. We might not get a point.
That would be entertaining, though. To be fair, looking at these world rankings, it looks like there's only currently, and again, this might just be because the world rankings kind of suck. You have to go down to 35 to find the third European.
No, you build a team like here's a European team. You got Nicholas, obviously, Simon, obviously. You got Vino. Then you have, I would say, Yessi.
Yep.
And then you have Yona. and
Or
you have
Jakob.
Laurie and Cimarron.
Jakob's not making it for you?
Is Cimarron?
Oh, Simrod. Yeah, Jakob Simrod. Yeah. I mean, that team's dirty. Yeah, that team's good.
The teams over there are getting so good every single year. It's like, could this be the year? And then we just beat them.
The only thing, though,
I have a lot of pride with our teams because I just don't think we'll ever lose.
The only thing is, right now they kind of have like 2 points locked in with FPO. Like that's kind of what the trend is. And so if they can find, right now they really only have one, I would say one top guy. Like Nicholas is like the top guy.
Simon.
Sorry, two. Sorry, I forgot about Simon. That's my bad. They do have 2 top guys in Nicholas and Simon. I think as soon as they get a third, as soon as they get one more guy in there, it starts getting a little dicey. Because then the bottom guys can just pop off and beat anyone.
Well, though, still, like, they're so good that it could happen still.
No,
like,
it could still happen for sure.
Yeah, like those are all people that if one of them wins out of nowhere. Like if I'm gonna be honest, if Jakob won, it'd be a little surprised, but I could understand it. I'd be like, oh yeah, he got in the mix and then he made all his putts and he won the tournament. You know what I mean?
Is it just 8 points, Yuli? Is it literally just they each play one round?
No, because there's a match play round.
I don't remember what the format is.
There's a stroke play round, which is the final round.
They do it all in one day, though, right?
Yeah. But they do don't they only do 12 holes or 9 holes?
They do
or
something weird. Yeah, they don't play full 18. They do like a weird loop.
I think, well, format wise, I think it needs to be bigger. Like I don't think
a standalone event.
Yes, and I think that it should be 12 guys, 6 women.
Ooh.
If you want to do it like that, yeah, I think it needs to be huge. That way that there's just points going all over the place. People go there. It's this humongous event. It rotates every single year like it is, but it needs to be a standalone event. And without a doubt, it would be the most electric tournament that we have, period. Just like the President's Cup is in traditional golf and the Ryder Cup. Yeah, that's that. The fact that we haven't done it is because we're so young, and I think in the next 5 years it has to change. Like it can't be a one day. Okay, it has to be a whole weekend, lots of matches. The captain has to be more involved with, okay, these guys are not playing good. I'm sitting them today.
Yes, more
these
decision
guys are
making.
more decision making, the whole
alternate
thing.
shot, like stuff,
right.
like more strategy involved. I think honestly, the Disc Golf Pro Tour has put a lot of money and time and effort behind like the skins matches, which I think are great. But like, I think this event, like you said, I think this event should get more shine. Should get more resources put behind it. I
think that the tour it needs a Ryder Cup, President's Cup, big event.
Maybe like the PDG. I hate saying it, but maybe like the PDGA is like, hey, we're gonna like remove ourselves a little bit from being so hands-on and like being involved with the tour, and we're just gonna run the World Championships, the Champions Cup, and President's Cup. We're just gonna run those 3 events.
Yeah, I mean, however it happens, I don't care how it happens, but it needs to happen. And then I do think the tour is missing these other 2 things. I think it's missing a huge doubles tournament.
Love that.
And I think it's missing a huge match play tournament. 2 great things formats that are highly entertaining.
I think match play is very dependent on the course, though, because they've tried match play. And
I already know the course.
What's the course?
The best match play course. Drum roll is De La Viega, without a doubt.
Oh, De La. Interesting.
It's the best match play course. I mean, there's wild stuff that happens. There's running it over cliffs. You have to make it. There's rollaways. There's all kinds of stroke differential all the way down the thing. It's entertaining. Par 3 golf, easy to film. I love it. I think that would be a great place for a match play tournament. Everybody loves De La.
Speaking of De La and someone that might have a little bit of experience with De La, let's bring in the man himself. Nate Doss joining Tour Life for the first time. How's it going, man? Thanks for coming on here tonight. We appreciate it.
Hey, it's going real good, man, and appreciate you guys. Good to be here.
Yeah, when I found out that you were planning on coming back to play on tour, and it was funny too, because me and Yuli, an episode or two before that, were saying like we would love to see some of these players come back and play. And so the fact that a couple weeks ago we could get news that you're coming back, I'm like, Yuli, you have to try to get him on the podcast. You have. So we do appreciate, I know you're a very busy guy with all this stuff that you're doing out there. So we do appreciate you taking the time. I know a lot of our viewers and listeners are very excited to have you on here as well.
Man, no worries. And yeah, Yuli hit me up, and it's one of those things, man. I'm kind of not on social media all that often, so I don't really know there's even a conversation about this stuff happening. But you know what? It's cool. It's cool to be back, and good to be chatting with you guys.
Yeah,
one thing. You have a lot of experience with the President's Cup. We just built like a little fantasy team to go over there. You've played on that team a bunch. Do you think that it's time for the President's Cup team to be its own thing? 12 guys, 6 women, its own like tournament. Is it there yet, or are we still like a couple of years behind?
You know, that's a great question. I mean, I definitely think it could be there. I mean, you say 12 men, 6 women. I think we certainly have the depth on the FPO side now to have more women. And I think that's the big thing. We for sure have the depth on the men's side for 12. You know, I would really think, though, as the European side, I'm not sure they'd want it to be that deep. No disrespect to anybody, but that's a lot of players to try to field on that side of things. But I do think that it could be a little bit longer. I think it could be more than just attached to the European Open. Right. I think there would be, I think a lot of people would want to see that. Maybe a 2-day event where, you know, day one is, you know, some kind of doubles or, you know, team event. And then, you know, Sunday or whatever, day 2 would just be all the singles play. I think that would be really cool. And I definitely think the fans out there would want to see it.
Oh, and here, I mean, like, I don't know how much golf you like or watch or consume, but Ryder Cup's one of my favorite weeks out of every 2 years. Everything goes by the wayside. I'm watching that. I'm stuck to the TV, and because of that, I have to think that it would be that electric for disc golf as well. But anyways, Brodie was getting to ask some questions, but I felt like since you had been involved in the team for so long that you would have good input on that bad boy.
Yeah, I think honestly, Disc Golf Pro Tour, just nuke the All-Star event. Just literally drop a nuke on it. Let's get rid of it. Let's put the resources into this President's Cup, and let's put the resources into a manufacturer cup. That's what the people want to see. They don't want to see this all-star event where people are putting from 20 feet on one knee. No one wants to see that anymore. Give them the manufacturer's cup. Give them the President's Cup. And I think everyone will be happy. So, all right. First question I've got for you has to be on the top of a lot of people's minds. Why? Why now? Why this event? What is the reasoning to saying, you know what, I haven't played in some time. Now I want to come back and dip my toes in the water once again.
Yeah, so, you know, I haven't played a tournament in 6 years, almost to the date. I mean, it was June of 2018 that I played my very last tournament, the Missoula tournament up in Montana. Me and Double G went into a nice battle. Double G got me there at the end, but That was the end of my road, and I wanted to start a new journey, which was opening my own business, becoming a professional brewer. And honestly, when I did it, when that happened, I kind of thought I'll probably never be back. It's just my personality. I kind of like being all in on things, and I know what it takes to become the best, and I know what it takes to cash in a tournament and kind of even make it worth it. But last year I was watching the USDGC at home with my kid, at the time my 3-month-old baby son Luca, and I saw my friends playing. Some of the guys that like Steve Brinster, Will Schustrick, some of these previous champions, and I was like, man, I'm kind of like the only previous champion not at this tournament. So I texted Jonathan. I said, hey, I know previous champs get in. He's like, yeah. If you want to play, register next year and let's do it. So that was kind of what prompted it all. And then I thought to my head, man, I cannot just go out to Rock Hill, cold, like not even knowing if I can do this anymore. And so I was talking to Jeff, and we were talking about the Portland Open. He wanted me to play. He's like, dude, you should play the Portland Open. I thought, dude, no way. 2 courses, they're super long, like all that practice. I said, what about the Beaver State? He said, yeah, that could work. So I hit up the tournament director, Jesse, and full disclosure, man, I am so thankful and lucky that I even have the opportunity to play still. There's so many great players, and just because of my past, it allows me to get in, by basically just asking a question and getting that opportunity. So I'm super thankful. I talked to Jesse, the TD. He said, let's do it, man. I got a spot, and I'll put you in. So I'm in. I have been practicing lately, and, hopefully it goes well.
That's awesome. And I think the Pro Tour would be very dumb not to allow you to play an event. I think there's reasons why they have like sponsored exemptions and other things in other tournaments as well. I thought it was crazy that Avery Jenkins was on the grounds at Worlds last year and could not play. Like that to me just like blows.
2 years ago, maybe. Whenever his
No,
streak.
it was last year, GMC.
It was last year. Yep.
Which one broke his streak? Was that GMC?
Yeah, it was the one that was in Vermont.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So like that, the idea of like having greats from the past come back and wanting to play, like that is really where these spots that are reserved for, whoever they want. Like, I think you're going to bring a lot more attention to the tournament, whether you want to or not. You're going to. There's going to be tons of eyeballs, and you would probably be one of the most favorited, back in the day on UDIS where you could like favorite players to see. If you could still do that, the technology hasn't somehow crossed over to the PGA Live yet. Not sure when we'll get that, maybe in 2025. But you would probably be one of the most liked players. I'm sure people are going to be definitely checking to see how you finish up and how that. Okay, before we go and talk, because obviously I have so many questions on like modern disc golf. How, like, what got you into disc golf? Because I don't really know, and this is what I was telling with Yuli. There's like not that much like history for us that I got into disc golf right around 2020. So other than like hearing stories from people, there's not really that much history, podcasts, articles of where I can go and learn a lot about players that played 10, 15, 20 years ago. So where was your upbringings? What got you into disc golf, and what made you want to become one of the best players to ever do it?
Well, it's a long story, and we need like 20 podcasts, but the reality is I was very lucky where I started playing disc golf and where I grew up. So I started in Santa Cruz, California, De La Viega Disc Golf Course. The Masters Cup, it has been a tournament since the mid 80s, and some of the best players in the world had always come to California. So my dad actually found the sport in 1991, was the fall of 91. He had gone a couple of times. Finally, my mom said, hey, like, you better take Nathan up there with you. You need to tire him out. I'm a little 6-year-old kid running around, acting all crazy. She said, take Nathan with you. You got to go up there. And so that's kind of how it started. And immediately I met Marty Hapner, Tom Schott, a few others, Dave Levan, guys that are part of the actual Hall of Fame now. And those were the first people that I was introduced to. The spring of '92 was the very first Masters Cup that I ever saw. Ken Climo, Scott Stokely, several other great players, Jeff Lissman. And from right there, I saw what the best players in the world could do. And that's basically all I wanted to do from like 7 years old until now, still to this day. And, you know, for me, disc golf is not just something that I got into. It's my life. It is my heart, soul, blood. It runs through my veins every single day. And it's because of that opportunity to be a part of a community in Santa Cruz with De La Viega, just a lot of great people. It's a subculture there. And then, of course, like I said, the Masters Cup every single year. I first got to meet Kenny in person in 1995, I think it was. You know, Barry started coming into town in like 97, and every year it was just the best players, you know, coming into town, getting to spectate them. And that's how I was able to, you know, I think get better so quickly, because back in those days, there was no YouTube. There was no watching disc golf. You had to watch it with your own two eyes. And unless those guys came to your town, you weren't going to see it. And so I got to see it. I got to learn from the best. And in 1999, at 14 years old, I won the Junior World Championship out in Kansas City. I turned pro the very next week, played a tournament in Auburn, California. And then at the Masters Cup of 2000, this is 24 years ago, I cashed for my very first time. I was 15 years old. So I was officially a pro. And from there, I never looked back.
Dang. So was it back in those like pre-YouTube days? Because I saw this a lot with Ultimate Frisbee, which I think
You didn't
actually
have cassette tapes?
Oh, dude, I wore out the cassette tapes, dude. My dad had to buy extra tapes of all the tournaments that would come out on tape, because I would watch them over and over and over. And there was only a handful. I mean, it was a couple of world championships, like, and that wasn't even until like 95. So hell yeah, I watched VHS. You know it.
Yeah.
Could you, like, did people in that pre-YouTube zone, did they know who, like, what actually was good at, like, who was good at disc golf? Because something that I saw a lot in Ultimate Frisbee is when I would go and do a clinic or go and do this tour of where I'm helping schools and stuff. A lot of times it's just like, yeah, this is the best player in our city, so we all just listen to what he has to say, and we all think that's the best thing to do. When in fact, you're like, no, he's teaching you guys all the wrong stuff. Do not listen to. Is that kind of, was it like the Wild West back then too, of where someone's like, oh, this is how you should throw a backhand, and you're just like looking back at it now, you're like, holy smokes, we had no idea what we were doing.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, really, when you start to think about the generation that was just ahead of Ken Climo, which, you know, he was about 89, 90 when he, you know, was starting to win big time. This is the infancy of even disc golf. I mean, the beveled edge disc was barely invented. So I think it took about 10 to 15 years for like hundreds of different styles of throwing to even become popular. You know, you had a guy like Scott Stokely. Scott, even in the early days, would travel around doing clinics, teaching people how to throw sidearms. So there was a little bit of that going on, but I think it was kind of like regionally, right? Were you playing in Arizona where the courses were all kind of big and wide open? Were you playing in the Northeast where everything was wooded? And you had all these specialists. And Climo was basically the first person with any success anyways to really be able to do anything anywhere very consistently. I think a lot of people tried to follow what he did. And then the other thing is putting. Back in those days, the baskets they did not catch as good, and everybody had to push putt. Once the basket started getting more chain, a bigger sweet spot, that's when spin putting became very, very popular. So, yeah, man, I wouldn't call it the Wild West. I just feel like it was kind of the collective disc golf world figuring it out on their own. And nowadays, you got millions of hours of footage to watch. So you can kind of learn from the best already from anywhere.
I feel like it kind of was the Wild Wild West, because when I first came up, Dan Ginley was the best in Arizona, and he did that little hop. So I remember being like, oh, this is the way that you throw it. And so I hopped. That's exactly what I did. And then where I grew up playing, there was this guy named Kim, and he could throw this little sidearm really accurate through the woods. And that's how I developed my sidearm. It looks exactly like that guy. And I've held on to the sidearm. I ditched the backhand. No offense, Danny. But I feel like it was a little bit, like you said, regionally, like he was the best. So that's the way that I didn't know that there was other ways to throw. I just thought, okay, you guys are doing it this way. This guy's winning. I'm going to do that.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, dude, and I do agree with that. And I always say you can literally do anything if you just practice it enough. I mean, you could. There's no such thing as the perfect throw. If you practice the ugliest tee shot ever, but you make it work, it works. I mean, imagine those guys that just throw overhands, like permanently. That's all they do, and somehow they can still shoot a 10 down on their local course. It does happen, but there's also now things that are tried and true, proven that work. Mm-hmm. But still, I love the variation. When you watch Eagle McMahon throw versus Calvin Heimberg, there's nothing similar, but they both get the job done.
His name is escaping me. Was it Ron something? Who was the guy?
Ron Russell.
He like tried to sneak up on the basket when he putted.
Right?
Yeah. Like his back was towards the basket or something when he put.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
And he'd like look over his shoulder, and then like you can't tell me that people were looking at that being like, that's, I mean, you see it with Paige Pierce. Like there was girls doing the little head thing, right? Like before you putt, which is like, there's no way that is the most efficient way to putt, right? But
the funniest one was Macbeth's little leg thing that he did. And then I went over to Europe like 4 years later, and every little kid before their putt, their little leg was like
little foot shimmy.
I have to do this or I'm not going to make this putt.
Dude, it's funny about Ron Russell, because Ron had the strangest putting form ever, but when that dude was hot, it was 80 and in every time. And I'm not even kidding. It was 80. He was dead from 80. And, you got to give respect to the guy. He broke Climo's streak at a time when nobody thought that was possible. And I first met Ron after he won that Worlds in 99. He actually came out to California for one of the first trips, came to the Masters Cup. I got to meet him. And, I wasn't sneaking up on the basket with my shoulder, but I started putting Anheuser. And what I noticed was with Ron, because it was a shoulder turn and an Anheuser putt, the Anheuser from distance kind of had two chances to go in. If you popped it with enough turnover, you could nail it that way. But if you got it long enough, it could twist back and go in. And so I started putting Anheuser, and that was in 2000. And 5 years later, I won the World Championship with an Anheuser putt. I know Yuli can attest to that. He's seen that putt, but that's what I'm saying, man. You can make anything work. And, I learned that from Ron, actually. So much respect.
Hey, and I hurt my wrist in like 2012 or something, and I started putting the Anheuser, and I copied it from your stroke. So
right, there you go.
Some of that putt's similar to that right now. That's very, very effective on tours. Matt Oram. He's kind of got that little Anheuser snap putt.
He's one of the only ones that has just held on to the same everything for however long it's been, like 20 years.
Like the
nothing's
glasses,
changed
even
with
the
that guy.
glasses falling off his head. Like he will never get glasses that don't fall off. He has to have glasses that fall off.
He's been pretty wild his whole career. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, crazy to see. All right, let's fast forward a little bit here, and then we're gonna go backwards as well in time. But let's fast forward a little bit to the moment that you decided, like, hey, I'm done. Was you kind of mentioned it a little bit? Did you know this is like, hey, this is going to be my last tournament, or like how did that all transpire?
You know, it's one of those things. I didn't know that it was going to be my last tournament forever, and clearly now it's not, because I am going to come back and play at the very least in a few weeks out at the Beaver State. But I actually, you kind of got to, to me, it kind of goes back to about when I was 30-ish, 29-ish. I started thinking in my head, I'm not going to be able to play disc golf forever. And the like, kind of that money that you need to survive once your game goes down was not really available, right? I mean, I spent from 2005 till the day I kind of retired was near the top of the leaderboard, and I was able to make some good money, but it wasn't the kind of money we see today. So I was starting to plan it out. I'm thinking, man, I got to do something, start my own business, whatever. Maybe I could do clinics, but I don't know. I'm not that good at clinics. So I was starting to get into craft beer. My father-in-law, which is Avery and Val's dad, Leroy Jenkins, he was also into it. They wanted to start a brewery/bar. I thought, man, that would be pretty cool. So we just started planning, and then it kind of all came together. So actually, like the off season of 2017 into 2018, we got all of our money together. We actually signed a lease on a building, but I couldn't break ground until middle of June. So I had to play right up until that time, and it just happened to be Missoula. And we got the go ahead to start working on things that weekend, and we headed home, and that was it. And it's just, I know people can kind of sit here now and say, dude, why? It's not like I woke up that day after Missoula and said, man, I just don't want to play anymore. This was 5 years of planning while I was still competing, while I was still traveling. I mean, Valerie won in 2014, the Worlds. We were still at that level. I mean, dude, in 2017, I won the GMC. Yeah. And I had to figure out something, and timing might have been a little off. If I waited, call it 2-3 more years, things might have been a little different. But at the end of the day, I am so thankful for the way it went down. And, I still love watching disc golf and commentating it and being a part of the sport in that way too.
So let's just talk about it. Let's say, you've got another week and a half, a little bit more than a week and a half. You've obviously, like you said, you love watching disc golf. You commentate on a lot of the big events. Where do you see, hey, if I come out and have a good week, where do you see yourself stacking up? Because me and Yuli kind of talked about this. I was shocked seeing Shoestrick, Climo, Prince. I was shocked watching those guys in person at USCGC when they did that skins match about the level of play they had. And I was like, dang, like, sure, certain courses, it might not translate, but I was like, some courses, their game's going to translate really well. So where do you see yourself if you go out, play well? Where do you see yourself stacking up with the field that is, that you're playing in 2024?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, before all of this, there was only one goal. The one goal was to just win. I mean, that's it. There was no other, hey, I just finishing in top 10. Even once the field started getting bigger, it was always just win. where I sit today, right now, I have 3 goals in mind. One is to complete the tournament, not get injured. You know, I haven't been playing a ton, so I am a little bit, keeping that in mind. Like, I need to keep my body right. Stamina is a big deal, especially playing a course that is over, it's like 11,000 feet. The gold course there out at Milo. So that's number one. Number 2 is the cash. I think it would be a big success, honestly, if I was able to cash with limited, time out playing tournaments. And again, with all the great players these days. And then goal number 3 is to win. And I was just out at Milo about 10 days ago, roughly, and I played a full practice round on the course. Played all the holes that we're going to play in the tournament. And I shot like of course, it was a practice round, so I was throwing a lot. But I shot a 6 down. I had 1 bogey, 7 birdies. I looked at last year's scores. That puts me right about on the cash line. You got to shoot that 10 or 11 per round to win. And that's what you got to do anytime you're playing a big tournament. I don't care where you are. Can I get there? Maybe. I think 1 round. If I shoot a double digits 1 round, I mean, I might just quit forever because that might be the best feeling I've ever had. But no, man, look, I'm not coming back. I am doing this because I love disc golf. I have the opportunity, and I just want to be a part of the field with you guys a couple of more times, maybe once, twice, 3 times a year over the next 4 or 5 years before I am just too old. My kid is growing up. Other things are taking me other directions. This is perfect timing for me. I just turned 39 years old, and I'm going to give it a couple more spins around the course and see what happens.
How many times have you been watching, like, let's say the Worlds, and I'm sure it happens at courses like the USDGC to where you're commentating and you're just like, man, I should be there. Like, I should be playing with these guys. Like you said, it had been, how long has it been since 6 years?
6 years. Yep.
6 years. So was year 1 super difficult for you of not doing it?
Dude, I mean, year 1 was like an absolute whirlwind because it was like middle of February that Steve Dodge called me and said, hey, there was a lot, there's a whole nother story. There was a lot going on with the Pro Tour and live commentary, and Terry wasn't a part of it, and all this stuff was happening. He said, I need commentators. I hadn't even thought of this, but he's like, I have nobody. I can't make it. I can't get anybody. And I said, Steve, it's not good timing, man. Like, the brewery is going to open up like 2 weeks after the Memorial. And, it was like that year was like 2019. It was like Memorial, Waco, and the list goes on and on and on. And he wanted us to do them all, every single one of them. And I was like, I don't know, dude. So anyways, long story short, we said yes. And that's where my commentating and Val's as well started, was just Val and I just making it happen, dude. I mean, there was obviously probably they would have gotten somebody else to do it. Shoot, Steve Dodge would have done it on his own if he had to. But it was such a whirlwind because we were opening the brewery, commentating for like 12, like not quite 12, probably like 9 hours a day, 9.5 hours a day on the weekends. And then Monday morning, go right back to work. It was like the 7 day a week, 365, no stop. So I didn't even really think about it. The next year, a little bit of the same. That was COVID. I didn't think about it much there. It wasn't really until about that 3rd year, so like 2021, when the game, again, started to get bigger and everybody wanted to talk in the terms that we've kind of been talking in now. This was 3 years ago where it was like, well, back when you played, I'm going, they're playing all the same courses. It's all the same players. There's no difference. I don't know what you're talking about. So it did creep into my head there, but also at that time I still am very committed to becoming a better commentator, knowing the players' games better, being able to, get across the words that it takes to commentate. So honestly, Yuli, I haven't even thought about coming back until that USDGC moment when I thought, dude, I just want to see my friends again. I haven't seen Steve Brinster in 5 years. Even if I go out to Rock Hill and finish dead last, I mean, I know this sounds crazy and it's kind of an ego thing that you would imagine, but it's not here. If I go and finish dead last, I still would be so thankful to be a part of that field again, play with you guys, be on the practice field with you guys, because it's a big difference between talking about you, but then playing with you and being a part of that environment again. So that's kind of the mentality right now.
Well, and I don't think it's like that. I think that's great because, first of all, you belong in the field at that tournament. You earn the right to play that field until you can no longer play anymore and you want to give your spot up. Like that's part of the perks of being a great champion. You know what I mean?
I think it's giving a spot up. I think it's just like,
I can't play anymore.
Yeah, like I don't think you playing in that tournament is taking a spot from someone else.
No,
I think you're just you're adding.
Right. Well, exactly. But my point is, like at the Masters, eventually, Bernhard Langer, like this year, said, "Hey, this is my last season. I'm done with this tournament." And there's no, like, I've never been like, "Why is that dude playing?" Like, no, that's freaking Bernhard Langer playing at the Masters because he's won the tournament.
My point is him saying, "I'm done playing." It's not like them being like, "Oh, well, we have to add a new person now."
Right.
He's just being, that's what I'm saying. I want any past winners to be able to play. I think that makes the tournament so much more special.
Absolutely.
I think and I've had this conversation a lot about previous champions getting in, whether it's for 1 year or 5 years or whatever, or a lifetime. I think there's certain tournaments where a lifetime is kind of warranted. And I think the USDGC is that. There's a lot of, history there. It's on the same course. The World Championships, I kind of look at like a 10-year, 10-year exemption, I think is really warranted. I don't know about lifetime there with the Worlds, because the Worlds it's a little different the way that people qualify for it and stuff like that. And then the other majors, I think, and I look at golf the same way. In ball golf, the Masters is lifetime.
Right.
All the other ones are 10 years. Now, you can still get good exemptions, like they exempted Tiger into the PGA Championship this year, which I think was a great idea. Again, a lot of eyeballs on that tournament. But, I think as far as the USDGC is concerned, you need to leave it into the mind or the heart of the champion to say, I can't keep up.
100%.
Now, I'm saying right here, like I might finish last place, but I'm not going into the tournament thinking, boy, I'm just going to shoot 20 over and who cares? I might finish last place because I get nervous and just play bad, right? And everybody else plays better. But I'm going to go into it thinking my game is here. I can keep up. I can keep up pace of play, like all that stuff. I think you need to leave that up to the champion. And once they know, like Bernhard's saying, I can't commit to it as much, it's time to step away and, make way for new champions, I guess.
Yeah, and even if they want to just do that, throw the first shot, similar to what Augusta does with some of those guys that can't play a full round, they just come out, hit one shot. Like that's electric. I think that's a great way to start your tournament. I think that's something too that could really help disc golf start creating these traditions, start creating this history of past champions, where right now they're just kind of like, they're almost just like these imaginary people that we hear about, but we don't ever see. So I would love to see that.
I think Climo is a perfect example, man. Like Climo, Kenny and I and Yuli. I mean, we know each other. We've played a lot together. We've spent a lot of time together. I've stayed at Champ's house. I've traveled with him. I've done all that stuff. Like he is a living legend. Like just to see him, people that just found the game in COVID. Who's this Climo guy? Everybody knows Macbeth because Macbeth is also a living legend. but Kalaimo is on another scale to that. He was the guy. Could you imagine being a 9-time in a row world champion? I don't care if it was, in 1,000, years ago. There's a lot of pressure there, and that guy stood up to that. And I just think, like you said, if it was a first tee thing or they do this little champions, 6-hole skins or whatever, it's just cool to see him back at it.
Yeah.
It's a different aura with those guys. I remember the first time I ever saw Ken Climo, and it was like I was, like people talk about seeing Michael Jordan for the first time, NBA players, and they're like, oh, it was like seeing a ghost. I remember being like, there was like a glow to this guy. You know what I mean? I remember being like, dude, he's like a big guy. Like that's freaking Ken Climo. It's a completely different feeling for sure. And I think he still has that thing. When you see him on the grounds at USDGC, there's something special about him. And having him on we had him on the podcast just one time, and it was one of our best podcasts. I mean, just to be able to talk to him, because with people like you and Ken Climo, all the information that is coming out is new information with podcasts and everything that people don't get to hear about, like you starting in Santa Cruz and then you being taught by other Hall of Famers. Like that's kind of a wild thing.
Yeah, dude, it really is. And that's why, I kind of obviously I saw Kenny playing last year, but then he did that interview with Brian that they released on the Disc Golf Network. And that was super cool just to hear Kenny tell his stories, hear it in his own voice, just getting to see Ken again. He had some injuries, he stepped away from the sport, but it's good to see him back, him commentating at last year's USDGC, this year's chess.com. And actually, I don't know if this is public information, but he is on the schedule to commentate the World Championship, and it's going to be him and I, along with Terry Miller, doing the commentary for the World. So, I mean, I just got goosebumps, like, running up my arms, because I remember the first time I played with Ken, like, I was so in awe. And then, in 2005, when I won my first Worlds, he was in the lead, he was in the final 9. And then the next year, him and I battled, and he ended up winning his 12th. And so I went from being in awe to trying to have to beat his ass on the course,
Yeah.
And I think he liked it that way. But now that we're going to get to come back, commentate together, I'm excited to spend 5 days with him and get to talk with him and get to have his input on the commentary too. I think it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, it's gonna be sick courses too, I think that obviously makes the tournament is you got to have the courses there.
You know
and
these
the players.
courses because you're from that area, right? Or you live there?
I lived up there for about a year. But that's where Foundation is. So yeah, I'm up there quite often. Ivy Hills is a temporary course. So that's the one that's on the golf course there. Tons of different elevation changes. It gets windy out there, so that will be a test. Obviously landing zones with the OB and everything like that. I think it'll be a great test. And then New London, I think, Paul Macbeth design. I think it's one of the better wooded challenging courses I've played.
Nice.
Like I put it pretty close up to Northwood Black.
Man, yeah, it's one of those things because we don't there's not a lot of footage of these courses. I've gotten some early flyovers, so I've been able to kind of check it out, but we're actually going to fly out there for the Worlds to be on site. So it'll be cool to see some of these holes in person. And the Worlds to me, and again, the USDGC is the big show as well, but that World Championship, that's the one every year that just gets my heart pumping. So I'm excited about that one.
Yeah, it should be a good one. All right. So you mentioned this a little while ago. I kind of want to go back to it a little bit because it is a topic of conversation, because I think where disc golf is currently, when you compare it to like the other big 4 sports, let's say, those sports have been so much more established over the years. And even them, you can go back 20 years and say, like, look how much the game has grown in 20 years, even though they've been way more established than what disc golf has. So where's your stance on the matter when it comes to, Paul Macbeth is a perfect example. Maybe we use him as the example. I'm on the side of, I don't think Paul Macbeth has gotten worse. I just think everyone around him has gotten so much better that when he does have an off day, he doesn't win the tournament anymore by 2 or 3. He finishes in 15th, 20th, 30th, and 40th. And then there's some other people that are on the side of like, oh no, Paul's gotten way worse. He's not nearly as good as he used to be back in the day. And my thought is, it's like, you look at someone like Matty O, for example. Matty O's in his late 30s. Like, I don't think disc golf is a sport that, you're like 37. Like, if you're a running back in the NFL and you're 37 and you're still somehow playing, like, that's insane. You're an insane person. I don't think disc golf is like that. I think you can be competitive when you're 20 years old, when you're 30 years old, and when you're 40 years old. So, like, where's your stance on that?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think when you do look, let's just compare to golf, right? Because it is somewhat similar to what we do. I mean, golfers can be in their mid 40s and even older and still be playing super good. I mean, Bernhard Langer is a perfect example of that. Disc golf, I think, is a little bit more fast twitch than, say, golf, in a way where the club, if you can put that club in that perfect slot, that good head speed, you can make it work. But yeah, I do think it's a young person's game, in the sense that those fast twitch muscles are so critical. That arm speed is so critical. And it's the amount of, hiking around, like, you got to get yourself up and around these courses. But yeah, I don't know, man. I just think, I do think that mid 20s into the early 30s is the pocket. That's the pocket from a physical and a mental standpoint. I remember when I was 20, like, physically, I could do anything. I could go play 3 practice rounds a day, get up the next day, do it all over again. But mentally, I was a little bit young, obviously age-wise, but also just, didn't have a lot of life. As you get older, you get more life. You get a little bit better physical because you're stronger, you're bigger, and it's that whole idea of working smarter, not harder. I think as you go on, you got to spend more time preparing your body. Dude, when I was 20, yoga? Get out of here. Yoga? Come on. As I was 31, 32, I was doing yoga because you want to stay flexible, right? And, all those things. So I just like the progression that can happen. To comment on Paul, I mean, Paul set a standard that the players today are still trying to achieve. I mean, from a consistency standpoint, that guy, unbelievable. And, but you're right. The field has risen, and it just takes more work to keep up with the pack.
Yeah, I think Anthony Barella actually might be, for those that are trying to make the argument that like Paul has gotten worse. I think Anthony Barella actually is the best example, because we talked so much about, when is he going to win? When is he going to figure out how to win? If you pluck AB and you drop him back, are we thinking it takes him that long to win?
Yeah, probably not. Exactly.
There's less people
point
that he has to beat, right? Like,
right. Yeah, and obviously he's physically head and shoulder. I mean, all of the physical advantages that he has, the long arms, he's tall.
He's faster than everybody.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. He's faster than anybody. He learned how to putt, like, with some speed as a young person. It's not like he was always struggling with putting, but I think for him it was just mentally, and that's where those mid-30s guys can beat players that have physical advantages, because they can mentally handle the end of the round when it gets really tight in the final round. You got to make one shot, and that's going to win it for you. And you've had that history before. The nerves aren't quite as difficult to get over. But to me, once AB learned the winning ways at chess.com, it was only just the dam breaking.
Yeah.
And now AB believes he can win. And, we saw it with Isaac Robinson. Isaac Robinson had won. He was in college doing all this stuff. He won one pro tour, and now it's a belief. It's now you have that memory of winning, and he goes on to win 2 majors last year. I think that's a great example as well.
How much do you think you had a question?
No, say yours and I'll say it after because it's kind of in the middle of all this. Good.
Yeah, so you mentioned later on you're going to have the mental advantages over some of these younger players. Do you think that disc golf needs to continue to push the boundaries when it comes to courses? Because there's certain courses that I'll play and I'm like, this is just an execution course. This is literally, we're playing darts. Who can throw the shot better? And then there's other courses. Northwood Black, I think, is one of the best of where it's not an execution. You're not going to show up and be able to execute every shot out there. And so you're going to be put in a lot of different spots. And we saw it with Paul Macbeth, like someone like you talked about. We saw him literally crumble at that course that one year of where it looked like he was just an absolute blender. You're not going to see that at these courses that don't punish bad shots, that don't give you risk reward options. So how much do you think courses need to continue to evolve to where we get to see these moments down the stretch of where it is should I do this? Should I not do this? Because to me, that's what really makes disc golf special is, can you execute the shot? Sure. But can you also pick the right shot to throw?
Yeah, it's a good point. I think from a distance perspective, I'm not sure the courses need to get much longer.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's more of the, like you're saying, the technical aspects. And basically even till to this day, most disc golf courses use natural design. Hey, we're not building up mounds of dirt or planting a bunch of big ass trees or anything like that. You kind of have to naturally design the course and then it work in. And I can, speak to Milo MacGyver as a great example of that. It's 11,044 feet or something like that. But it doesn't feel that long because players have to execute some really good shots in some bigger fairways with some tight woods as well at times. The perfect courses are still yet to be even designed yet. I think they're still coming. I think we need courses that do require a little bit of everything and not just a lot of one thing. And but also I like variance. I like that, 1 week we're at chess.com and then the next week we're at Waco and it's a completely different vibe. So
I don't think we need to have super tough tournaments every single week. I still like the idea.
No, I think you need technical. Yeah, I think you need technical courses. And the difference between disc golf and ball golf, and Yuli knows this. 10 years ago, I would have never said this, but watching a player shoot even par in disc golf is really not that entertaining. I mean, watching a really hard golf course, Tiger Woods shoot a 1 down can be entertaining. He's made some good putts. He's made some good chips. Disc golf is really fun when the players are shooting 7 to 11. That is the most entertaining. And I think that's where we really need to land is a phenomenal round should be 11. And a really, really good round should be that 7, 8, 9 range, I think, on average, in my opinion.
I think there's a good place for all kinds of different disc golf because of how the sports progress with the long throws. I definitely think there should be 2, 3, maybe 4 very long courses that challenge that skill. Yeah. But I also think that there is a place for a birdie fest to where hey, guess what? You're going to have to shoot 13, 14 under at this course, maybe at least one time to have a chance to win. I think that there's a place for that. And I think there's a place for woods golf where you have to go in there and grind it out. Maybe a very scoreable woodsy course and then a very hard woods course like
nice
Northwood Black. I think one thing that I really have seen a big trend on lately is finding these golf courses so that everybody can watch and then the course design is making really, really long holes. And that's when I'm like, okay, that's fine. I like that golf. I like that challenge once in a while. But week after week after week, I don't think it's good for the players. I don't think it's healthy for the players. I really don't. I think that they're throwing too long, too many times, and we're seeing a lot of injuries come out of the sport. And it just so happens to be that sidearm injury. And people are like, I hate the argument too of people being like, well, just don't throw sidearms. It's like, hey, you put the most competitive people of all time in the sport and you tell them, hey, you have to throw a 450-foot shot sidearm and that's the optimal shot for this hole. That's what they're going to do. They're not going to be like, no, I'll try to tuck a little backhand in there. You're forcing these guys to push the limits to your body, which I do think there are places for that as well. Just not every single weekend, like weekend after weekend. I also think that like the majors, there should be a Woods major, there should be the USDGC always, and then there should be the Worlds that rotates and maybe another rotation. That's fine too. But I think we need some consistency with the major championships so that we can start building history again of not just winners, but golf courses. And I think you hit it right on the nose, Nate. And I've been saying this for years is we haven't seen a good disc golf course yet. There's no good disc golf courses yet. We have a
disc
lot
golf
of
holes. Yeah.
Yes. And we've seen like properties that have been switched from something to another thing. Like my big example is like people kill me for this, Nate.
Here it comes.
Maple Hill,
the roads.
The greatest disc golf course of all time. And I always say, hey man, that's a tree farm. And on hole 1, you throw right down a dirt road to get to the fairway. On hole 2, you're throwing right down a dirt road. That's not a disc golf course. We haven't had one yet, I don't think. I don't think we've had one where somebody's designed it. We've played a pro tour on there, and people are like, I don't care where it is. That's where I want to play. I think USDGC is close because it hasn't changed that much with the surroundings and the big trees, a little bit here and there. But there's something about driving to that course, walking up to hole 17, and that just being like, oh my gosh, this is the USCGC. Like, this is the greatest of all time. Kind of went on a little rant right there, but I just wanted to back that up.
I love it. No, I love it, man. Yeah, and it's kind of it's a tough thing too with where our sport is. Like, you can't play in Florida one weekend, then be in Vermont the next weekend, then in California the next week. We have to travel along these roads because everybody's in cars and vans and buses and stuff. And so you kind of get like 3 or 4 in a row that are all in the Midwest where it's a certain style of disc golf. You got a couple of, 3 or 4 on the West Coast. And, because like then you go when we play GMC MVP back to back, those are wooded. Yeah. And you do see a lot of mid-range shots, but it's hard to like nestle those in to a tour. We have to kind of play them back to back because we're up there. And I do agree with you, man. The perfect disc golf course is yet to be invented or even thought of. The property's probably sitting out there somewhere. And I know it's because I'm coming back to the Beaver State Fling. This might sound a little self-serving, but I've always said that to me, Milo MacGyver is one of the best properties for disc golf. I know there's a couple goofy holes with some roads and parking lots, but that course really does put the players in a position to throw a lot of different shots, have to enter the greens with some sidearms, backhands, rollers even. So I think it's a good challenge there at Milo. But, that
a lot of history there too.
That's one example. And there's a lot of history there too. Exactly.
Let me ask you this, Nate, because I think course design, and I don't how much course design have you done? Have you designed any courses and stuff out there?
A little bit. I mean, there's no single course with my name on it.
Okay.
So no,
obviously
I am
on your
not
wife's
a course
side,
designer.
though, there's a lot more course designing going down there.
Yeah, and Avery and I always don't see eye to eye with course design either, but I know a good hole when I see it.
Okay, so this has been my take on disc golf. For someone for someone that constantly looks at golf to take ideas or say, hey, this is what golf is doing, maybe this is what we should be doing, right? This is the thing that I think you need to do the exact opposite. Golf is very this. If you look at a lot of golf courses, drone view, Some courses is like 1, 2, 3, like literally just rows. Disc golf needs to get away with throwing par 4s and par 5s that are straight. We need angles. So like the best, one of the holes that kind of jumps out at me is hole 10 at European Open. Now, granted, we are throwing over soccer fields, but that hole, the reason why that hole plays so well is because the hole goes like an L. The drive is here, and then it immediately goes this way. So people, if you want to play cautious, you throw up to the right, throw safe, but now your second shot is so far. Or you try to cut the corner to make your second shot shorter. Like that to me is so more fascinating than these holes that we just have, oh, it's 1,000 feet straight. And yeah, there's some trees here and there that you got to miss. Like I want to see you getting out of position and now you're having to attack this weird angle. And now you're thinking like, should I be super aggressive? Should I just lay up to the corner and try to get up and down for my par? Like to me, there's so much more strategy involved when we stop making these straightaway holes. Even par 3s, stop making these straightaway holes. Let's start using some curves. The disc can do crazy things. Let's start seeing more of that.
Yeah, and I do what I take away from everything you just said is decisions, making the players decide, okay, what side of the fairway am I going to be on? What am I going to play to that softer side where it's an easier tee shot, but a way longer second with a bunch of OB, just using 10 as an example out there at the European Open? Or am I going to get super aggressive, be on that left side inside, and then it's just a chip birdie from there? I love seeing decisions, and being on the media side for the last 6 years or 5 years, it's like what's the best thing to talk about is what's the decision going to be? And then it becomes the execution. And I do think that is one of the best things and one of the most entertaining things to watch when you're thinking about disc golf.
The other thing that's underutilized, real quick, Yuli, force carries. That instead of making holes longer, force people again to have to make a decision. Hole 3 at European Open, I'll use that again since that tournament is kind of coming up. Hole 3, the par 5, was kind of a pretty standard par 5 when it just was OB sidewalk, OB down the left. And so they said, what can we do? They didn't think, let's move the tee back 50 feet. They were like, what if we actually made in the center of the fairway OB? So now players have to think, do I want to chip a little 300-foot shot out there, then go long again? Or do I want to try to blast my tee shot all the way across? Like these forced carries of where, again, if you're out of position, right now in disc golf, so many holes, if you're out of position, all you're thinking is, let me just throw this shot. Let me throw this forehand roller as hard as I can and just try to get as far down as possible. When you start having these forced carries, now if you're out of position, you got to think, wait, can I actually get over OB or do I need to chip up and then throw over? Like those decisions, that's what I want to see when the pressure is the highest. Who can make the right decision there?
No, that's exactly what I'm thinking too, man. And I think talking about like how late you can play, as soon as course design gets to that spot to where there are these things where it's more, not only do you have to execute and throw long and do all those things, sure. If you go against King Climo right now and it's a decision-based course, he's going to mop a lot of people up because he's going to make the right decision from the experience that he has. You know what I'm saying? But right now, I don't see that as being, there's only one course where he could even have a chance to compete, I feel like, and that's the USDGC. Well, guess what's at the USDGC? There's a lot of decisions that you have to make over and over and over and over again, right? I think we need 2 to 3 of those courses a year, at least. Ones that are just like
more ideally. I feel like that should be every course.
Ideally, yes.
Well,
yes.
I mean, dude, to me, it's and we're talking about decisions and all these things, but it's also the preparation. I mean, one of the things that why a lot of players are able to have success at a place like Rock Hill is because what's your preparation? How did you prepare? Did you just practice willy-nilly, go out there, toss, and not think about the mistake you're going to make? Or do you have a backup plan?
Yes.
Like when you get to 10 and or whatever, 10 or what, let's just use 7. Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about?
Let's use that as an example. Okay. I practiced it twice, nailed the green both times. What's the backup plan if you don't? Right? Where do you go? You got to pre-think about all of that, because when you get into the pressure moment and all of a sudden you didn't make it in bounds and now you have to throw a shot that you haven't prepared, that's when you start making mistakes because your mind is not in its normal way. I love decision courses. I love preparation courses that require 3 rounds, playing a lot of shots. I think that's the most fun once you get into the tournament and once you get into the final round.
Now, let's talk another thing that I absolutely hate about course design. Drop zones. Now, hole 17 at USDGC, we were just talking about it, is one of the easiest shots that we have on tour. As far as just throwing something in the circle or 45 feet, it's not challenging at all. The reason why that hole is so challenging is we all know if you do not throw it in bounds, you're not going to a 30-foot death putt. Ooh, 30-foot death putt for Paul. No, there's the balloons. You're having to rethrow. And that only gets harder and harder. So, Nate Doss, what are your thoughts on these stupid okay, I won't say stupid. Sorry, that's framing the question. What are your thoughts on drop zones where the player never even crossed the water? They threw it straight in the water, and now they get to advance all the way to the green and have a 30-foot putt for par.
Look, it's rock and a hard place, right? If you take away your own personal opinion, you just look at why some of these drop zones are there. It's for speed of play.
I hate though.
I'm not saying I like it. I'm just saying that's why they do it. And again, that's why I'm taking my own personal opinion out of it. That's why they do it. Some fields, not all of the fields on tour are as good as the USDGC. That being said, if you can't keep that standard, then maybe you shouldn't be playing. That's also another hard thing to say, where it's like you can't just have drop zones where, you shanked your tee shot, you move up 180 feet, and now it's a much easier shot. We've seen that at Northwood Black. We just saw that during the Champions Cup. That happens. And again, I think all of it is predicated on speed of play. The other topic of that conversation is, well, should the hole be designed differently? Right now, that becomes a topic of conversation. Is it a bad design? Why is there a drop zone where you just go to a green and start putting? Right, like on hole 5 at the USDGC, you can't just keep missing the water and walk up to the green and putt. You still have to throw over that water. You should always have to get your disc in, onto the green, whatever, regardless. But over the history, we've seen people take 28s or 26s on 17, and we kind of don't want to see that either. So yeah. I get it, but also I'm down with if you throw and it's a carry, move up to the line. Now it's a shorter carry. You got to be able to get yourself onto that green or over that water from there versus just, walk around and now putt.
I was at OTB this weekend. I missed the island, and then I just freaking sorry to interrupt you.
You just cashed your putt for par.
Yeah, from like 45 feet. I was like,
you don't deserve that.
I just walked up there and made it.
That's a perfect example, dude. That hole's like what? That's like
it's a 320-foot shot. It's a 320-foot shot.
And now you got a 45-footer. I mean, and it's just, I don't know.
Okay, I have to address some of these comments. Mark just said Brodie hates speed of play excuse, but says the rounds take too long. Mark, this is why I hate that excuse, is because if it was actually speed of play, then there would be marshals on the ground looking at the scores and seeing like, oh, there's one group on hole 7. The next group's on hole 11. That's a problem. We should address. They don't do that. No one's doing that. The reason why it's pace of play is because the PDGA says, hey, we need to make rules not just for the Disc Golf Pro Tour, but we need to make rules for the AMs. We need to make rules for the Masters. And they have to have this umbrella rule. Like, is this a good rule to have in an MA3 event? Absolutely not. What Nate is saying is that's where it's pace of play. Yes, you don't want guys that can't throw consistently 300 feet to try to land on a 300-foot island. That would take forever. But on the Pro Tour, we should not be playing the same rules. Look, I'm spinning all over my mic and getting hyped up. We should not be playing the same rules because the PDGA is worried about pace of play for MA3 people. That's ridiculous. If it was a pace of play thing, people would be walking around making sure that we don't have people playing with 4-hole gaps like we do on tour consistently from weekend to weekend.
Yeah, and if you think about the PGA Tour as an example, I mean, these guys, they get warned by the marshals, and then they eventually get stroked. Right? If you're out in golf, it's called being out of position. You're supposed to be within a hole and a half of the group ahead of you. That's also another topic of conversation that I think ultimately that we will get to is like staying in position. Right? If you want to take more time on a shot in the fairway, well, you better putt faster, right? If you want to take a bunch of time on the
faster.
tee,
that's what I always say. Walk faster.
I mean, you can take your time, but you better be in position. That's why I think the whole 30-second rule is also a topic of conversation where it's like a 2-foot putt takes a second, 1 second. A really hard shot with a lot of wind over water onto a small green, you might need to take a minute. Now, if you can take a minute there, now you park the hole, you take 2 seconds to putt. Well, isn't that 60 seconds? Right? I mean, being in position is what golf is all about, and that's why they take away, golfers, they hit tee shots really fast. They put the tee down, one practice swing, they go. I just think you need to stay in position, and as long as you're doing that, take a minute if you want. But if you're 4 holes behind, hey, you're going to start getting stroked because you're just not playing fast enough.
Like, imagine if we had good microphone, like good audio on Paul and AB at the European Open. Like, granted, they didn't actually talk that much. If you go and watch that, they didn't really talk at all. But imagine if those two guys were way more analytical with one another. Right. Do we really want, after AB misses the island for the second time, do we really want a 30-second shot clock of where he's just having to be like, Paul, I got to throw. Or do we want to hear him going through the struggles of what the heck, am I about to lose this thing? And sure, maybe it takes 2 minutes. But like, to me, that's fascinating. That's interesting. If we can make that happen, someone taking 5 minutes to walk to their disc when they're the first one to throw, or something that I love, and shout out to all the pros that are starting to do this, because let me tell you, no one was doing this when I first came on tour. No one. Everyone would throw their shot, and then we would all walk to the first person to throw, and we would all stand behind. And then they would throw, and we would all watch and be like, good shot. Then we would all walk to the next person, and we'd all stand behind that person. They would throw. Good shot. Now people are actually separating and going to their disc. And if they're like way far up, they're kind of off to the side. So that way, when this person is done throwing, they're not standing behind them. They're actually already here, and they might have already figured out what they're going to do. Like, to me, Nate, and you're behind the commentary, you know how long these rounds are. Do you think disc golf should be trying to be faster to where we're not having to ask people, hey, you need to sit down and watch 5 hours of disc golf with us on Sunday to see a winner? Do you think we could be more competitive with other sports if it's like a 2-hour watch?
That's a great conversation to have, and I could use myself as an example. I am a ball golf fanatic. I mean, and so is Yuli. Like, I love watching golf. I'm the guy that's like flipping on the Golf Channel in the morning, and then when they switch over to CBS, I'm watching the rest of the round. If the Masters was 6-8 hours long, I'm down. I'm down for it. I think there's a lot of disc golf obsessed people that just love sitting down and watching all day long. They also have a lot more
cameras. They have a lot more cameras.
True, and it's more. You can watch a guy play hole 12 while the leaders are teeing off.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I do think that pocket is that 3 to 3.5 hour round. That's a really good watch length. I think from if you're going to watch the entirety of the round, like first tee to, final putt, I think that 3 to 3.5. Once you get beyond that, there's, especially with our coverage, there's a lot of just sitting and watching maybe a backup or whatever.
That's my point, is the backups.
Yeah, we're getting better. I think we are getting more cameras. We're putting some stationary cameras on certain holes. We're able to jump around a little bit more. I mean, great example, like Champions Cup, on that third round when guys were trying to make the cut, we were able to go to some of the stationary shots, show their scores. I think that made it more of a compelling watch. So do I think we need to play faster? If the round was over in 2.5 hours, I think I would still be wanting a little bit more. I think that 3 to 3.5 is the sweet spot.
But Nate, the thing, I'm not saying we should only have 2.5 hours of coverage.
I know that.
You guys you can still do 5 hours of disc golf, but in those 5 hours, we're not just going to see one group play 18 holes. We can see maybe two groups. And my whole thing is like at OTB, and I mentioned this on the podcast last week, there was a fan that came up to me and said there was a 30-minute gap between groups at one point. Yeah, they were sitting at one of the par threes for 30 minutes, no action. Nothing to watch. And that's on the players. That is 100% on each and every one of us. And that's why this is what just annoys me, is there's so many people that think, I don't know what it is. Maybe they're just, they got big egos or whatever. I don't know what it is. You got to stop thinking about you, and you got to start thinking about the product. And we got to make this faster. We can't be having people play so slow that everyone else is like bogged up behind. And that's the problem. We have like 5, 6, 7, 8 guys that play incredibly slow. And then we have a bunch of other guys that play slow. And so no matter where they are, like, we're all screwed.
Oh yeah.
That's the problem, is like everyone is screwed. And it's like, and we got to look at it. And that's what I'm saying, is that don't walk up to your shot and be like, Brodie said I have to play fast, so let me grab this disc and throw. I'm not even ready. My hand's slippery. No, look at all the other areas that we can play quicker. We don't need everyone to stand 50 feet away from the basket when someone's tapping out. If someone's tapping out and you're tapping out, you should be right next to your disc. Like, like there's just so many things that cut off 15, 30, 45 seconds per hole, which over the course of the entire round, that can add up to 18, 20, 30 minutes. Like, that's big time. All right, I'm done with my rant. I'm done with my soapbox.
Who was incredibly slow when you were playing,
Sorry
Nate?
you had to hear that, Nate, but it comes out every once in a while.
No, dude, hey, man, the rant you just went on is one that this has been happening for generations, man. There's always been slow players. Yuli, I've been away from the sport long enough. I ain't bringing up names, but
come on, we want the names.
Come on, man. That's your guys' job, but it's a hard conversation to have. All right, so let's bring it into the modern game a little bit. You got Gannon Buhr, right? And man, I love Gannon. When he came onto the scene, I mean, he's getting 30-second calls, and like at the Tour Championship, we're covering it this way. Have you seen Gannon progress in his pace of play? Or is it just something that somebody everything accepts?
No, I think he has. He still will take sometimes a little bit longer than 30 seconds for some putts and some shots. But I think, again, this is where having more cameras definitely help, because when you have eyes on you, it's really hard to cheat. It's really hard to do something.
Take too much time.
Correct. Because now like he knew that he was getting slammed, and he doesn't want to get slammed. So he knows this. So he has picked up his game. The problem is we don't have cameras on everyone. So
what I think it is for him is a perfect example that a slow player can make adjustments and it doesn't affect their game.
Correct.
That's one of the things. Like, you feel like, oh, it's a hard conversation to talk to so-and-so because I don't want to affect their. No, they can change. They can consciously make those changes and still be a great player. And that, I think Gannon is a perfect example of that in a positive way, where he has made adjustments, he plays faster, and he's still one of the best players in the world. So he's a great example.
I don't think that like this time thing is really the problem. Like I'm in the boat of like, you should take a little, like, let's go back to Preserve when Nico won, right? His last putt, he took well over the time allotted for him to make that putt. He should. It's for the win. And then I get the people in the chat, or calling out the chat, in the world being like, oh my gosh, well, it's the rule. That means that you're cheating. Listen, there is a unspoken rule on the tour that I talk about, and that is some people you don't call because they don't take a long time. And if they go over by a little bit, I'm never going to call that person ever, because they're in a tough spot. They're slipping down a hill. They can't get footing. 30 seconds, bud. Like, you can't, I'm not going to do that to somebody.
You're not having to wait
like
for them to get to the tee box to get scores.
No.
They're not
No, this
walking.
guy is not a slow player. Or you get to a hole and there's a decision to make. You got a 30-footer right to left crosswind with OB right behind it. Yeah, that's an important putt for this guy. He has to go through a process of doing these things. And I'm sorry, but the 30-second rule isn't a good rule in that situation. Nobody wants to see, like we say, that product of a guy going like, toss it in the water, 4 putt.
But
that's
maybe
what we
people want to see that, though.
do.
Shot clock, that could be electric. 3, 2.
But this whole
thing, big horns, just
everybody else getting worked over from it. No, but that's something that the watcher at home doesn't see, is these, like I'm saying, these unspoken rules. Guess what? I'm not calling every single foot fault where they rotate and it's barely on their foot or whatever, or maybe they might have been off by a little bit. Like, I'm not calling that, and neither is anybody else on the tour.
Yeah.
And so when it gets called, it's big news because, I saw that on camera. Why aren't people calling this all the time? It's like a big old thing. It's like, no, like, we know when everybody jump putts in the whole world that sometimes they foot fault when they jump putt. Like, they're jumping forward. You know what I mean? There's all these unspoken rules where they're like, no, that guy's cheating. It's like, we're all on tour. No, they're not. Like, this just happens.
To me, cheating is a conscious decision. Like,
yes.
If you're going to call somebody a cheater, that means they decided to take an advantage, whether they didn't put their score down right or they moved their foot to where they had an advantage to get around that bush. That's cheating. I think cheating is conscious. If somebody misses their mini in a big ass fairway on a second shot on a par 5 and they twist their foot and kick their mini, that's not cheating. That is just a part of the game that I think you explained perfectly.
Yeah.
There's a professionalism amongst us to where we just accept that. But if you watched another player in the woods consciously try to take an advantage, that is cheating. I think you got to differentiate those two things.
I think you can call both.
Sure.
I think you can call both of them, though.
They're still breaking the rules.
Yeah,
they're still
I think
breaking
one
the
is
rules.
way more negative, of where you're like, that person's a cheater, and that one broke the rules. And I think a good example of this is actually Kristen Tatar. If you look at Kristen Tatar putt the last couple tournaments, she hasn't been jump putting, and I don't think it's coincidence that social media started pushing heavily screenshots, slow-mos of Kristen Tatar illegally putting. Like, I think that word got around. I think she saw those posts and was like, oh snap, like my feet are both off the ground, the disc is in my hand. Like, I don't think it's a coincidence that she all of a sudden just went away from her deathly accurate jump putt. And I think that's where social media has a huge impact on how players play.
I think it should be considered, that's a foul. Like in the NBA,
Yes.
Are you cheating when you accidentally foul somebody trying to get the ball? No, I was actually trying to guard the guy and I messed up. You know what I mean? I'm actually trying to play my best disc golf. Yeah. If you get called on it, you get called on it. You know what I mean? But that's where we need more refs. We need people to like come out of their shell and actually. Here's my big problem. Don't call me once in a while. call everybody every time. If you're going to be that person, then that's who you are, and then call it every single time that you see it, no matter what. I hate the wishy-washy. I'll call you. Oh, well, now I'm going to call you, and it becomes like a battle on your card. Like that's.
Oh yeah.
I won't say the word what it is, but that's a little soft in my opinion.
That's one of the reasons why a lot of people of all varying levels don't make calls, because they're afraid of the retribution. They're afraid of now everybody in the group hawkeyeing them on every single shot. I mean, I've had it happen to me. Again, I'm not going to speak any names, but I didn't make any foot.
We want names.
I'll tell you guys afterwards, and then you can do whatever you want. But like I didn't make any foot faults after that moment, and that person did. And I made that call, a specific call, because I felt like that player was trying to take an advantage. They were doing it on purpose. They were in a bad position, and they took an advantage to make a better shot. And that to me is when that call gets made. And again, I agree with Brodie. You can call it every single time. And I agree with you, Yuli. Be consistent.
Yeah.
One of the things you don't see amongst the top players in the world, the players that are playing for the most money, for the titles, the trophies, everything, nobody's on 18, one stroke back, watching them throw, hoping they make a mistake.
Well,
they're focused on what they're focused on what they want to do. They got to do what they got to do, and they just they believe that person's going to play by the rules, which 99.9% of the time they do.
Sometimes I warn some of these young bucks when they're coming on a card and there's a rules guy. I'm like, hey man, you're off your mark a little bit on that. You're gonna have to clean that up, otherwise
this guy's gonna hound you.
No, for real.
And also, I mean, last thing I'll say on it, do you guys? I mean, my opinion is, if you see it happen once, okay, maybe it was just, again, in a big field on a second shot, maybe it happens. If they do it over and over and over and over and over again, I might just say, hey, yo, you're missing your mini.
For sure.
Just clean it up. I want to see a little bit of effort.
That is an advantage. That is an advantage if you're not
cheating.
having to worry about putting your foot in the right spot. That is an advantage when you're like, oh, I can just put my foot wherever.
Right. Yeah. So my thing is, did you miss it once? Are you making an effort to fix that, or are you just not giving a crap where your mini is? And that is an advantage, because now you're not worried about your footing ever. So yeah,
dude, I'm starting to use a little tiny mini, so nobody can even know where my thing is. Yeah,
I've been starting to like look at where my foot is instead of looking at the target. There's been a couple times where I'll look, because I'm like, it's like really shaky footwork, like weird stuff. I'm like looking there, and I just kind of throw blind, just because it's like I don't want to step in a hole and snap my ankle in half. But all right, Nate, you're bringing out the greatest hits. Our chat loves it. One of my big ones that I have to know your opinion on: shaking hands on the tee of hole 18. Where do we stand on that?
I really don't care. I mean, shaking hands while we're still playing, I think is kind of makes no sense. This is my tool. I've had guys shake my hands with sunscreen on their hands, and I'm like,
oh, dirty. Dirty.
Yeah, I'm like, what are you doing? Like, guys in the crowd even. So I'm a fist bump guy. On the 18th green, I will remove my hat if that's what's expected of me, and I'll shake everybody's hand. But before we get to that 18th green, man, just keep focusing on what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yes, Nate.
No, he's talking about the tradition.
He's on my side. He's on my side. He's on my side. He said
He's on my side. He needs context here. He doesn't like the fact that on our 18th tee box that we go, hey, nice round. It was good playing with you. He wants to get rid of that. That's what he's saying. Whether it's a fist bump, whether it's a handshake, whether it's just words going back and forth, he doesn't like that. He says that should be on the whole 18th green, and he wants to get rid of it. And I say, man, that's tradition, man. We got to keep that.
But it's a bad tradition. Like, traditions can change if they're bad. There was a lot of hazing was a tradition in fraternities. Tradition, man.
Still is.
Well, some of them, yeah, sure. But just because it's a tradition does not mean it's good.
My thing is the shaking hands or hugging or the little bro hug, whatever, on the 18th green. That's just a nice professional way to say, hey man, thanks for the round. Like
that.
We're all out here doing this together. We're professionals. Whether you beat me or I beat
Should
you.
never get rid of that.
Yeah, that's where you put away whatever just happened, and you just thank them for being a part of your round of your day, because that's what we're doing. On the 18th tee pad, we're still playing. We're still competing. I still want to beat you.
Speak the truth.
So to me, that's where and dude, it almost never happens. Like big tournaments on the 18th green is everybody just like breaking character and being like, hey man, great to see you.
I think you'd be surprised, Nate.
You.
I think you'd be surprised. I think some people still do that though.
Yeah,
on the tee.
But to me, just wait for the 18th green, because as soon as that last putt drops, all of that intensity should start to mellow out, and we should then be appreciative for each other. Because I'll tell you right now, without other competitors, without those people in your group, what you just did for the last 3.5 hours means nothing. It means nothing. We're in this together.
Keep the whole. I'll never get rid of that. I 100% agree.
Yuli wants to do it on the 18th tee.
No, I'm saying I've never. Hey, I've said this. I don't care when people do it to me. I'm never an initiator for the most part. I'm never like, hey, good job.
Right.
But when somebody comes up to me on 18 tee pad,
you'll bump.
You'll bump. Yeah. Okay, guys. And then we play. And then afterwards,
it's not going to be heartfelt. It's not going to be, you're going to keep that intensity high. After the round's over, then it's a true thank you. Nice playing with you kind of thing.
I think it's an unnecessary thing that doesn't need to be done, but that will be my final take on that. You have something else to say?
No, not on that. I was going to...
let's switch gears. Let's go.
Yeah, we switch gears. Are we going to jump into his... Did you have more questions, or are we going to jump into his stats and all that fun stuff?
Yeah,
or did we already check?
I have stats here for him that we're definitely going to pull up to see what you think. But before, I do have one more question before we get into that. A lot of people want to know, what is the bag looking like going into your first tournament in 6 years? Are we going to see a lot of these TI buzzes that have been in your bags from years past, or you got some new plastic in there? What are we looking like?
That was a tough decision to make, and I landed on my bag being pretty much the same as when I played even 6 years ago. So I have a lot of my same Z forces that I was throwing off the tee. My TI buzz, I got the blue one that I always threw back in the day. I have a couple of new buzzes, Z buzzes, that I've added over the last 6 years, because the last 6 years I haven't played tournaments, but I still play casually. I mean, I've been telling the story, disc golf is in my blood. There's not a day that goes by where I don't think, man, should I be playing disc golf today? And I would go play with my friends. So I've added a few new discs, but for the most part, it's a lot of the old classics. If I was coming back to play on tour, oh, hell yeah. I would be going through all the new stuff that came out, trying to work it in, because I would have more time. I don't have the time to learn new discs. I just need ones I can trust. We'll see how they do at Milo, how they throw in the tournament, and then I might make some adjustments as I head towards October. If I need to get more distance, more accuracy, stuff like that.
How much money to get freaky in your bag?
How much?
Yeah, how much does it get cost?
I don't know. Make an offer. I mean, there's.
We'll maybe do that offline. We'll do that offline.
Okay, so you're saying that you played a little bit here and there. Are you a once a week guy? Or are you a twice every 3 weeks? Are you once every 2 weeks? What is that looking like?
Yeah, great question. I mean, recently I'm like 2 times a week. So I've been playing an 18 at my local course, but I also been spending about an hour and a half, hour 45 minutes in the field, just throwing about 100 to 130 shots. So one day is the field, the other day is the round, because you still need that like tee to green feel. But I just got myself a net as well, so I'm throwing 60 shots a day just into the net. Then that's more just for stamina, because the net, you can't really see where the disc goes, how it flies. I'm just like pulling one of every mold just so I can get that feel in my hand. That's heading into this tournament. Before that, Yuli, honestly, man, I think it was 2020 or 2022. I played like 10 times for the year. I mean, it was that, because, again, it's not as if I retired to go sit on the couch. I work 8 to 10 hours a day at my business, whether that's brewing.
Shout out real quick. Shout out for the people that want to know.
Yeah.
Where can they find it?
Oh, I mean, you got to come to Bend, Oregon, man. We're small. If you're in Bend, Oregon, come to Bevel. And, we've tried to make it as disc golf mecca as possible. You walk in, there's disc golf memorabilia on the walls. There's discs. You can buy discs from us. We have 2 baskets in the back. So we have a putting course that you can go putt on. So yeah, come to Bend, Central Oregon. It's a fun place. There's a lot of other things to do. Some pretty good disc golf. Yeah, come visit us.
Nice
but yeah,
little vacation to Bend, Oregon.
Dude, I mean, float the river. We have an amphitheater all summer long. It's a great spot.
Nice.
You know what I love about this too, listening to you, is people can get a good perspective of what a great mind of an athlete does. Like, you're not going into this is one tournament. You're not just like, okay, I'm going to go play 3 rounds at my local course. I'll go play Milo maybe. Like, you're putting in work. You're going to the field, doing this thing. I love that, Nate. I absolutely love that, man. A lot of respect for you telling us that. That's what I wanted to get to right there.
Yeah, man. And like I said, I mean, I have low expectations because I do expect so much of it myself, but I could not live with myself if I just went and got this spot that the Pro Tour and Jesse with the tournament has imparted on me and not prepare. Even if I play like crap, even if I get nervous, even if I miss every putt, at least I know I put that work in, because that's the respect that I have for all of you guys, for the ones that are on tour, because I did that for 15 years and I know what it takes, and I don't want to just show up and not be prepared. Now, execution is different, but when it comes to preparing, I'm going to put that time in, whether it's, I mean, dude, like sometimes we'll put my son down at 7:38 and I'm going outside. It's almost dark and I'm just throwing into that net just to get those reps in.
All right. Something you said that I don't believe. If you get a top 10 at Beaver State Fling, there's no way we're not seeing you again until USDGC, right?
There's no chance. There's no chance,
right, Yuli? You're gonna be like,
way.
wait a second.
Hey, this is coming from a guy who almost won his last tournament that he played in and then bounced for 6 years. So I don't know.
Dude, I don't know, man. Like, I seriously have, I am an all or nothing
Des Moines
person.
really nice. Des Moines fun. Idlewild is awesome.
Dude, I just, look, man, Milo is 3 hours away. I mean, it's close. I can get there. Honestly, let's just use the nearly impossible example that I win. I still don't think you'll see me until the USDGC, because again, I have a high level of respect for our sport, and I have commentary gigs already scheduled for this year. Like, I love doing commentary. Now, am I the best commentator? No, but I'm trying to get better each and every week. And I put the same amount of effort into that I have been doing to get ready to play this tournament. Because to me, I don't take commentating lightly. I'm the vehicle for people to hopefully get into the minds of Brodie and Yuli and Paul. And the reason I can talk about being in that position is because A, I've been there, and B, I know them. And so I still take that serious too, man. Like, I am lucky to be a part of the sport in the way that I am. And, I just the other thing too is like Ian and Philo and those guys have that gig to commentate the USDGC, so I pretty much will always have that weekend free too. So
that is,
you know,
there might be absolute like raids in the street though. If you win and then you're like, see you guys in a couple months, like people will start, people will start rioting in the streets if that happens.
No, you'll be getting some big contract offers, baby. You'll be you told us like, oh, and then that money started
like,
creeping
wait, they started
in.
offering private planes. They started offering.
Yeah, you know, look, man, like even I've had people, again, no names, but I've had people tell me like, dude, if you just came back and committed to playing a year, they'd give you $100K. And I'm like, yeah, but dude, that's like a year of my life. Like, I mean, I just have so many things that I do. Yeah. And again, like I do really enjoy doing the commentary. I do really enjoy my job here at home. And I do enjoy, you know, my family life. And dude, I went on tour the day I graduated high school. So I graduated high school that same day. I flew from San Francisco to Michigan, started, you know, and I was on tour. And yeah, I've had jobs where I've had to bounce in and out, back to Santa Cruz, things like that. And then in 2010, I committed fully to it. And then in 2018, you know, that was my moment to step back from it. I have traveled around the world. I've been fortunate enough to be a part of this game for so long that, and when I first stepped away, I was so worried about missing it and missing being in that environment. But the first couple of years, it was almost like a relief. And then like year 3, I started to reminisce and I started to look back on what was. And the one thing that made me a little sad was that there was times when I was in the best situation I could have been in my life, but I was so sad because I didn't play well, or I didn't play up to the standard that I was trying to live up to. And so like I've looked back on my career and I'm so much more thankful for everything that I've ever been given. And I'm going to take that with me heading to Beaver State, heading to, you know, the USDGC, just to be thankful to be back in that environment. And also the one thing that I've been saying for my whole life is I wanted to leave disc golf better than I found it. And I'm still in the process of doing that. One day, nobody's going to want to see me play. One day, there's going to be new commentators, and I'll retire from that job and move on to the next thing. So I'm just going to enjoy it while I can and do the best that I can with what I got.
Love that.
You've brought up commentary a couple times, and I think it's probably one of, I mean, I don't think it's necessarily difficult, but it's one of like the most polarizing positions in sports, right? Like there isn't.
Have you done it, Brodie?
I have done some, yes. It's
live?
Yes. But like ultimate and like other things that I'm saying, what I'm trying to say is like the challenge of it should not, like how difficult it is shouldn't be the kind of like craziness that you see on people being like, get this guy out of here. This is right. Like that's what I'm trying to say. It's like there's not really a commentator that is like so bad that you're like, this guy, don't want to ever hear from him. I'm trying to think, like Jim Nantz, is that like the only commentator in sports that there really isn't? Jim Nantz, who's the guy that does the Olympics? Little guy.
Oh, like Mike Tirico?
Mike Tirico, he's one that I don't hear too much. Like there's only a couple people, and then everyone else, there's like, I absolutely love this guy or get this guy out of here. So yeah, like how has that been going from like the player that I'm sure you had a bunch of people supporting you, a bunch of fans, everyone rooting for you, and then you bounce in to the commentary booth, and now you're having people like being like, I don't like this guy talking about this. Like, how is that transition? Bob Costas. That's who I was thinking of. Bob Costas.
Yeah, Bob. Yeah, Bob Costas. I mean, look, man, when you think about like we named 3 people just now. They're all hosts. They're all not ex-players.
Correct.
I think when you're in a position, when you're an ex-player talking about current players, there's always that love-hate relationship. Like, oh, Tony Romo, I hate Tony Romo, or Troy Aikman, I love Troy Aikman, or vice versa. But at the end of the day, they're still doing a good job. They're still giving you great information, right? And so it was like maybe 3 years ago that social media. I have pretty thick skin with almost everything in life. There was one, and it was like a 2-hour afternoon. I started reading a couple comments on Instagram or something.
It's dicey.
And it got to me. It got to me to where I was like, there's legit people out there that just hate me and hope that I got fired and they never hear from me ever again.
Or maybe hope that you get hit by a truck.
Yeah,
there's some crazy people out there. Yeah.
And I'm like, I reacted to it. I made a post. It was one of my last posts ever on social media. And like, I did step away from social media at that time, and I haven't been back at all. And what I try to do is I try to like judge myself, talk to my peers that I'm working with, whether it's Sexton or Terry or the producers or my friends, like you guys. And it's like, how did I do? How can I be better? Because one thing people on social media aren't doing is telling me why I suck, telling me why they want me to get hit by a truck. They just don't like the opinion that I said. And that is like, it is hard to do, but I just had to step away, know that I am doing a good service for our sport. And the one thing that I do in the commentary booth that I focus on, number one, is to represent the players to the best of the ability that I have. I am on the players' side. I want to make sure that we're representing them. If they mess up, I'm going to say they messed up. If they do something great, I'm going to say they're going to do it great, because you got to call it the way you see it. And some people just don't like that. And that's okay. That's okay, man.
There's a big growth that's happening in disc golf, and obviously me and Yuli see it all the time here on Tour Life. I have another podcast called Debate Night that we see it there as well, of where if you're not positive, you're wrong. If you're not positive, you're a bad guy. If you're not, and like, I remember watching the World, it was either Worlds or GMC, I can't remember what it was, but it was FPO coverage, and one of the players literally turfs a forehand straight into the ground. And the commentary was like positive, like positively being like, oh, like that. It looks like they just slipped, or like trying to make excuses and stuff. And it's like, no, that was like one of the worst shots I've ever seen. And there's this, I think, and again, this is where like people come after me, and it's completely fine. There's a lot of people in disc golf that don't really venture outside of disc golf. They pretty much consume only disc golf as a sport. If you don't venture out and see what is being said and talked about in other sports, like, you have no idea like how nice and positive disc golf is compared to other sports. And I think as the sport grows and more people are getting into it, we're starting to see more people take on opinion pieces that may be a little bit different or edgy or whatever. And that's completely fine to me, but there is a lot of people that like to gatekeep and be like, no. You have something bad to say about this person? Absolutely not. No. And it's like, that's not really how sports work. Like, fandom is crazy. People go nuts. And that's why people love sports.
I think one of the things is as well with that, which makes me feel okay about like some of the comments that I get, Nate, because believe me, there are Reddit posts out there that they get pretty dicey out there. You can't go on there. But we all have to have thick skin, of course. But one of the things that I really take pride in with myself, which makes it okay, is the hard work that I put into it. Right. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't go into commentary just being like, yeah, right. Yeah. Willy-nilly, I'm going to talk about these guys. Like, I try to get better constantly. And I, just like you, I ask, oh gosh, that wasn't very good. Well, how can I, like Nate or Germ, like, how can I get better? Like, what is this? What am I doing? And you better have good partners too that are able to tell you. Otherwise, you're going to stay bad, or you're going to stay into this whatever of not being as good. When I started this podcast with Brodie, I'd never done a podcast in my life. Are you kidding me? Do you think I just jumped on and started blabbing? And no, I was pretty bad at it at first. And I feel like I have improved over time. Now all I do is watch podcasts. That's all I do.
Yeah.
And it's not because I love watching podcasts. I enjoy information and those things, but it's because I want to be a better person to talk to the people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Another thing it's our job as commentators to just speak what you see.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's what I see. And that's and don't hold it back. That's why some people think that I'm funny when I do my commentary, because guess what? Some goofy stuff comes out of my mouth because that is exactly what I see. That's the first thing that comes to mind. That's what you're going to get. And it's a different kind of style. It's a different thing. Some people like it. Some people don't. That's just the way it is. And social media sucks across the board for the most part. There's a lot of positive you can take from it. But for every positive, there's somebody out there who's just being mean.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, the last thing I can really say about it is the preparation. I mean, it's not, and as you said, I mean, really, I think about the Jomez guys, and I specifically think about you, Yuli, and Big Germ. I mean, you guys are traveling. You're on tour. You're on tour to do that job, and that's a whole commitment on its own. You're playing. You're doing commentary at midnight. You're back up the next day. You're playing your round again. People should respect you for that, and that's a good product that you guys put out. On the live side, I mean, I'm doing the commentary from my garage. Terry flies here. Sexton comes here. We're watching flyovers. We're watching the live and Jomez from the previous year. We're looking at course stats. We have meetings. Like, we're doing it, man. We're doing it the right way, and we're trying to make the product better. And for some people, that product would just be better without some of us. But and eventually that will happen. But to me, I do enjoy it because I am obsessed with disc golf. I am absolutely obsessed with it, and I have been since I was a little kid. And so to me, it's fun. That's all it is.
Yeah,
I like it. Yeah, and just to wrap that up, I think, if it's Terry, you, and Nate in that kind of grouping, like, I want to just hear off the dome you and Nate, like what you guys are thinking straight off the dome. Terry, I think, needs to be a little bit more on the professional side of like getting in and out of commercials and moving the story this way. Like, oh, we might have lost him. Hopefully his phone didn't die.
Been on here a while.
I was gonna say that's one thing, Yuli, we don't do. Silas, we need to start telling our guests to make sure their phones are fully charged before they come on, because that happens a couple times now. Oh, I think he's coming back. Can you hear us again?
Yep.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, so I was just saying, I think you do need to have one person that maybe takes their not their personality, but like takes away or like kind of moves the conversation in a direction. But I don't want to hear, I don't want you to be like, I have this really like not positive thing to say about this person right now, but I'm not going to say it because I want to hear just what you're thinking. I don't want you to have to like tiptoe over eggshells or anything. So,
and dude, there's a lot of trust. There's a ton of trust that has to be between Terry, Nate, myself, whoever the team is, whether it's Yuli, Big Barry, commentary, whatever it is. There's a lot of trust between you to be like, like, hey, shut up, this person's talking, or hey, like, let them go. There's all that kind of stuff that happens, and that's all like little nuances. And
oh yeah,
I love working with Sexton. Sexton and I have known each other for so long, and I do love working with Terry. I think Terry does a part of the job that Sexton and I don't want to do.
Correct.
Which is go into commercials, get out of commercials, like all that stuff. We don't want to do that. We want to just talk about the game. So, man, it's going to get better. It's going to change over time, and it's fun.
Yeah, well, people thought me and you, exactly what's about to happen right here is people thought me and Yuli, like, I wasn't letting Yuli talk at the beginning of the podcast. Like, bro, you gotta let Yuli talk more. I'm like, Yuli can jump in and say whatever, whenever. Yeah. And I think it's just our dynamic, Yuli. We've gotten better as weeks of us working together.
We learn for sure. But I think one of the things like that makes a good commentator, makes good podcasts is we're hard workers. Like Terry has been around the game for so long before before I was even a question in anything. And he's been grinding out like his vlogs and dude, that's the hardest worker in disc golf. You know what I mean? Who doesn't play? It's Terry, hands down. He's done it for so long. Like he's great at what he does, but he also puts in a lot of effort to those things. You know what I mean? I don't want to work with somebody who's just like, meh, all right. Like I'm just here to kind of do it. No, like I want passionate people to work with. You know what I mean? Bro, no matter what anybody says about Brodie and I, guess what? We grind. Yep. He was just on a podcast right before this, working his butt off. You know what I mean? Guarantee that whatever I was doing right before this was working for something in the game. Like that's one thing that like people have to understand. We're not just like, wing it. No, that's not what we do in anything.
Agree. Yeah, agree. Now I'll put my stamp of approval on that Terry Miller comment. Like there's nobody that I know that works as hard as Terry. He is, and he has given up a big part of his life for this sport. So much love to Terry Miller. He's a good friend and a great guy for the sport.
Yeah, and he was also doing it when there was like no money. That's like the other thing is like he was just doing it because he loved it. It wasn't like he was like, oh, I'm going to create this huge mega business. And
he was just at the Cascade Challenge. Like, what is this dude doing? You know what I mean? Like he filmed the Cascade Challenge, did commentary on it, had it out the next day, him doing it, like all of it. It's like, dude, you're a lunatic, but
he loves
he's a grinder, man.
All right, now's the time where we pull up the statistics. So these statistics, just to kind of like let you know, these I believe were from the year 2013 to 2015, because that's really the only time we could pull it. And how these statistics work is the highest of the high is 99, the lowest is 75. So middle is 85, or is that right? Yeah, 85 is rough, or sorry, 70 and 100. 85 is in the middle, and this is based off of other people in the field. So this is 2016, 2017, 2018, the last 3 years you played. Looking at this, we have your scoring at 95, your power at 85. That's the only one that's subjective. That's no stats to back that up.
Right.
Your accuracy was 97, scrambling was 93, putting was 83 for an overall of 95. Top ranking, number one. Thoughts on this? Where you're thinking? Was there anything let's do this actually. If this was where your game was your last 3 years of playing, what do you think it would be today? Like what needs to be adjusted today based off of that?
That's a great question. I mean, when I first made the decision that I was going to come back and play, so I went out to the field. I didn't even go to the course. I went to the field, just try to figure it out. I'm like, so number one is just consistency and stamina, right? Is the first shot as good as the 100th shot? That's like number one. And I think that's why I got the net, because I just want reps. Like I just want my body to be used to doing like 60, 70 full throws a day. And I got to be able to do that. Number two, my sidearm is just like trash. I mean, it's just trash. And I've been putting a ton of work. I've been going to a local course and like just playing the course, just only sidearm, even though it's a bunch of hyzers and stuff. I just throw sidearm. And so I'm working on that. That putting number being in like the 80s, it's not surprising. I mean, at the peak of my career, so say between 05 and 2011, I think that putting number would have been better. But as my career went on, I was a little bit more nervous on the putting green, missed some putts I should have made. And that's the reason why I didn't win more tournaments, unfortunately for me. But man, I think like I need a little bit more distance off the tee. I think the putting's going to be okay. The sidearm definitely has to get better. But I don't know, man. I think the only difference between 6 years ago and today is A, I'm 6 years older. B, I'm throwing it probably 50, 40 feet shorter on like a max blast with a force. I'm only really thinking about forces here. Like I could throw a nuke farther, but not as accurately. So, and that's always been the case. So like if I could gain another 20 on that distance, I'll be all right. But that sidearm's got to get better. And that consistency of just playing. Am I going to be as good Friday as I am Sunday?
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. Well, I'll hope so.
One of our listeners, Ian, wants to let you know too that he hears that a Get Freaky is a great for sidearm.
Hey, dude, make that offer, man. Make that offer. Dude, for enough money, I would play with a glove on.
Do you like the number 95? Are you happy with the number?
Pretty high.
I mean,
it's a high number.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how that compares to like everybody else, but I mean, yeah, like the only number that jumped out, dude, the number that jumped out at me was that putting number being like 87. Like, I want that number to be like 90. You know?
I was just told by our statistician, Edwin, highest number so far.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, well then, yes, I'm very happy with it. But I think the putting could have been better, man. Like that's probably the thing that held me back the most. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I was never really a stats person until like the last 5 years because I've just been looking at UDisc for 5 years, you know, and seeing the stats and they do make sense. Like you look at it, you're like. And I actually look at the whole statistics, like looking at the field average for what they did. I even went back and looked at Milo, the Beaver State Freeing from last year, and did my research. Like, what holes is everybody birdieing? What holes is half the field? What holes is only 5 guys birdieing? And then that makes my preparation a little different. Like, okay, maybe I don't need to go full bore on this hole if only 10 people are going to birdie it.
Yeah.
So, you know, stats have definitely become more of a part of my life. Back in the day, I didn't think about it at all, basically.
Okay, so now a big question I have for you is from when you played, I don't care what era it was, because you spanned a very, very long time. The difference between players then and now, let's say for distance off the tee, we'll start with that one. It's wildly different from what I see, but what about from what you see?
Yeah, I would say distance is the biggest gap between, let's just use 2000 for an example. That's going pretty far back, but if you look at 2000 and you look at now, disc technology, but also athleticism, the number of athletes that are now in our sport, that changes everything, man. You look at Ezra Aderhold, you look at AB, you look at some of these guys, you're physical specimens, and that's why you're seeing that big gap. But yeah, I mean, to me, that's the biggest gap is distance, and it's not just pure distance, it's distance with accuracy and the distance on both sides.
Yeah, sidearms. Yeah.
Climo had no sidearm. Felberg, who is a 10-time major champion, no sidearm, none. And now I look at like Conrad and Isaac Robinson with no sidearms. I'm like, do you know how world-class your backhand has to be to even keep up?
Now? Yeah.
You know, I mean, and the distance with sidearm is just amazing.
Okay, so now my next one. This one's one that I feel like is so exaggerated with a lot of, especially people who played back in the day. Because I hear the stories and I got to see it a little bit of people being like, no, like these guys made everything and they were so good at this and that. And I'm like, bro, no, they weren't. Yeah. Like with the putter, the putting now has wildly improved across the board. Now, there were some very good putters, some insane putters, like Felberg from about 40 to 45 made more than I felt like a lot of people with his little nose up jump putt. But there weren't a lot of people who made deep, deep putts like regularly. Like I think that Gannon is like our Steph Curry of this generation. Like nobody has seen anything like it. Like he is making it from far. Like at an average, what is it? I think he was 40% from Circle 2 last year.
Yeah.
That's mind blowing. One,
Yeah.
like, let's say when I was playing with you back in the day, like if you made like a jump putt a day or two around, like that was like fantastic. You know what I mean? And the holes were shorter. So we were in circle 2 a bunch. Like, I just never saw this deep, 60-footer thing back in the day. You were saying 80 and in for Ron Russell. Was he actually 80 and in, or was it on random days he was 80 and in, or was it across the board he was just 80 and in guaranteed? Because I have a hard time believing that.
Yeah, I mean, well, think about Gannon Burr. He is our Steph Curry. He has good putting days and bad putting days, right? I mean, there's days where he's deadly from 60, and there's also days where he misses 20-footers.
Sure.
I mean, because if he made every 60-footer, he'd win every single tournament. To me, and I do agree with you, putting is the next one below distance. And distance is just it is head and shoulders bigger. The thing with putting is we've seen now in distance we saw the disc technology. In putting we've seen basket technology.
Catch a lot more.
And what we saw, if you go to 2000, let's just say the push putt to spin putt ratio was 80-20. 80 push, 20 spin. You go to today, it's like 95-5. I mean, because the baskets catch better. To push putt a 50-footer and make it is so tough. A spin putt, you can do it from 80 with standstill. Ron Russell, with that weird style he had, it was like a spin throw. And that's why he would make a lot of putts from distance. I just think that's the biggest thing is the style of putting along with the catching ability of like a Mach X, a Pro 28, a Discraft Pro with so much chain in the middle. Like if you were to take a course and just trade all the baskets out to Mach 3s and put Ricky Wysocki out there, I mean, he would have 6-8 spits probably.
Yeah.
Because he's knocking that basket over and there's just not enough chain. So I think from the ability to make the putts back in the day and today, there's players that are amazing. But I think that spin putt has made distance putting way more feasible. I think of somebody like Cam Todd, who was like this like spin push guy. He would make a lot of jump putts, back in the day, all the way up to, look, Macbeth was, deadly. Just deadly, dude. I mean, think of that putt in Worlds 2 years ago on, what was it, 17?
17, yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, dude, you can't spin, you can't push putt that putt. A push putter is throwing it. They're throwing it from there. Macbeth is able to line up and catch that putt, man. So I think it's the spin putt that's changed everything, really.
Shout out to Aaron Gossage, almost a world champion.
Dude, hell yeah.
I made this argument. I said that I think that Stokely would have won a world championship if he had a push putt back in the day, because he spun it. And I've watched old footage of him, and he had so many chain outs left and right because he did this like really spinny putt. And I remember thinking like everybody else is just floating it, and like Climo was just like floating him in the basket, just making it every time. And I remember thinking like, man, I think if he would have had a push putt, it might have been a little better. But
and you think about like Climo, long arms, Stokely, long arms, Will Schuster, long arms. Like when you have long arms, and Gannon Burr, same thing. When you got these long arms, man, putting can be more challenging, I think, because it's just a little bit harder to get that putt up to that perfect release point. But yeah, Stokely just had so many putting problems. Just think he took second place at Worlds 3 years in a row, and the guy couldn't putt, So yeah, maybe a push would have done it for him. I don't know.
Should have tried the scuba. All right. So before we let you go here, we like to end our interviews with a couple questions. One being from me, and that is pet peeve. So what is something that is happening currently in disc golf? It can be in tournaments. It could be stuff that you see players doing. It could be stuff that you see Disc Golf Pro Tour, whatever it is, something that's happening in the landscape that is disc golf that really just gets under your skin and you're like, stop that.
And you have to name names. I'm just kidding. You don't name names.
You know, man, like, to be completely honest, and I'll come up with one, but to be completely honest, where I've seen the game progress to, I am so happy. It's just like a dream of mine that we're even having this podcast right now, that you guys are on tour making money. Like, it is the dream of all dreams. So I really can't be that angry with it. The pet peeve I have, and I will use this, I will name a name.
Oh, yes.
This isn't even really a negative. It's like a teaching moment in a way. Was Ezra Robinson. Ezra at the Champions Cup. I think Ezra really could have won that tournament, but it was this like negative mind process. Like, he allowed one single bad shot to get under his skin enough, and it affected him for 5 or 6 holes. And I remember saying on the coverage, dude, like, I just want to give that guy a hug. I just want to see him smile. And I'm not saying you got to smile and be like, dude out there, but don't let the little things get under your skin. Like, negative thoughts are like, they stack. So if you get one, you get another, you get another, you get another. You have to be able to put yourself in a position and just execute shot after shot after shot and let the bad ones go, because that's what the greats do. So that's my pet peeve, is like just negative speak, negative talk. Leave that stuff at home, man. Like, you are a professional disc golfer that gets to travel the world. You're going to have some bad shots. Don't let those ones ruin what could be a great thing. And, so that I'm just using Ezra as an example, but you see it from a lot of players. Negativity is just, it needs to be left behind, in my opinion.
Did you ever like have like short spats? Because I agree with you. I think there are certain people where they'll have a bad shot and then they'll get to the next tee pad and you can see already, like, they're already pissed off. They're like, this round's whatever. Like, I think, and maybe you think this is wrong, but I think it's okay if you throw a bad shot to get like super pissed off and super mad, but then you gotta quickly snap out of it. Like, did you ever do that as well? Like, you miss a putt and you get super mad at yourself and then you could flip the switch?
Yep. Yeah. So to me, there's a difference between intensity and just straight up negativity. That immediate react. Dude, nobody out there should throw into the water and be like, oh shucks, let's just do it again.
Yeah,
no, that is not what I'm saying at all. I am talking about when you throw a bad shot, you should be intense, but realize that you need to put that and go back to work. You need to use that intensity to focus you in even more and execute that next shot. Another low-key pet peeve is players that complain about the course, about all the things that are happening outside of the realm.
We had a whole segment on that. No, I'm just kidding.
All right. So I know. No. But here's a great example.
You're talking about due to unfortunate course design, I was not able to.
Yes. What I'm saying is, I'm going to use the Champions Cup as an example. There was a lot of things swirling about the weather and having to go back out there and starting at 7 o'clock in the morning, all that stuff. And what I said on air was, the person who wins this tournament is not going to have bitched about any of that.
Fresno.
They're not going to have said anything about that. And they're going to say, I'm going to go out there and do it. So to me, it's about, dude, you have to just leave all that stuff behind, because what you complain about it afterwards. Don't let things that you can't change at that moment affect you while you're doing your job. That's kind of another one.
It's good advice right there.
It's good advice, and I like how you said this is a teaching moment, and especially coming from a 3-time world champion, hopefully some of these players can be like, check themselves and be like, dang, coming from him? Yeah, I better do that.
All right, you want to wrap us up here?
Yeah. My question is, I'm going to just bring the people that you commentate on now. Who do you look at their game and you go, oh my gosh, I wish I had that. Like, that's nice.
Definitely a couple here in this situation. I look at Anthony Barella, and I wish, dude, I had that power. I just wish that I never had that power in my career. And as now he has that power and accuracy that, like, if you were to give me that and I still was able to keep the accuracy I had with a buzz and, my short to mid, distance putting, like, I feel like I could have done even better things at that point. So he's kind of number one. That's from like a physical standpoint. Mental standpoint, I really do look at, and again, guys, I mean, I only see what's on camera. I mean, you guys know these guys a lot more than I do, but I look at an Isaac Robinson, and I love Isaac's aura when he's playing and when he's putting and how casual he makes it look. Like, I really wish that I just had that casual kind of just low key, like, win a world's, making it look easy kind of thing. Yeah. And I thought he did a really good job at that last year. And I still love watching Isaac play to this day. But man, I'm a big fan of a lot of these guys out there. I love watching Gannon play. I still really enjoy watching Ricky play. I love Ricky's intensity out there too. So, but yeah, it's just fun, man. It's just great to see the new names, the new players, things get better. And, at the end of the day, when we were playing in the early years, there was like 5 people that theoretically could win. And now there's 25 that could theoretically win. And they do every once in a while. So it's just, hey man, it's good stuff.
Yeah. The parody is great. I think the extra media that you guys are doing, Jomez is doing, podcasts, all that are doing, to where it kind of fills out to where people are going to tournaments or leaving tournaments, having a lot more knowledge. That is really what's going to elevate disc golf, because you got to make people, you got to answer the question of why. Like, why am I tuning in this week? Why do I care to watch? And, I think everyone's doing a good job and continue to hopefully grow and get better at that. So I know we all really do appreciate. This was awesome. The chat was loving this. Hopefully everyone that was listening on Apple and Spotify loved it as well. I know you're a very busy person. Again, if you want to shout out, any shout outs here other than your brewery that you've got? Follow you on Twitter maybe, or Instagram for a comeback?
No, man. To me, that was the other thing that, like, people were calling it a comeback, and I'm like, man, I ain't got nothing to sell you. Like, if you want to come to Bend and get a beer, I'll sell you a beer. But I just want to take this opportunity to thank you guys. I really appreciate being here with you guys. Last couple hours been a ton of fun, and I just appreciate you guys doing this, man. Like, it's good to have varying perspective. It's good to have people talking about things that they're passionate about. And that's what my whole life is about, dude, is just finding a passion and going at it as hard as you can. And I love what you guys are doing. And I really look forward to seeing you guys. I'm going to be in Portland on Saturday, hanging out in the afternoon. And then I'm playing the tournament on next week or the week after. So hopefully I'll get to see both you guys and say it in person. But appreciate you guys, man, a ton.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nate, and have a wonderful night, man.
All right, y'all.
Good luck. Good luck out there. All right. That was awesome. That was awesome. We knew it was going to be good, Yuli.
Yep.
Sometimes you just know coming into it that it was going to be good. So, I mean, if he top 10s Yuli, I'm going nuts.
He's putting in the work. Here's what's good. Here's what's good. Like when Climo went out and played the USDGC and stuff, like, you don't know how much work he's putting in. And I asked him and like around here, around there, like, yeah. Nate's in the field grinding. After he puts his kid to bed, he's going out to the net to just throw extra shots. Like, we're going to get I'm not going to say we're going to get a polished product, but we're going to at least have somebody come back and we'll see some effort there, you know? That's what I'm so excited about.
I really hope he gets off to a good start. Because I think if he gets a couple holes under his belt, gets a couple early birdies, and like starts getting that confidence, then I'm going to be very interesting.
He's going to be featured card. So we don't have to worry about not watching him.
No, I know. What I'm saying is he brought up a couple times, what made me a little nervous was like him talking about, well, we'll see. Like if I'm not nervous out there, and like and of course he hasn't played in forever. So of course he's going to have probably a little bit more nerves than others. But that's what I was saying. Like if he starts rattling off and is hanging toe to toe with these guys, those nerves are going to go away, and the adrenaline just going to keep building. So that would be electric to watch. So that was awesome. So tune in, not this weekend. This weekend is Portland Open, but tune in next weekend for that, guys. It's gonna be Brian just says a lot more cameras now, which he's not lying. All right. This week in Foundation, Yuli, I don't know if you heard, Trevor has been trying this year. So January, February, March, April. He's tried 4 times, has been unsuccessful to shoot a specific score at a course in Lynchburg, Virginia. He was talking about how the new release of NCAA football has made him want to go out and buy a PSA 5 so that he could play that game again, which is that trailer also got me kind of jacked up, even though they did Ohio State dirty. So I put on the line a PS5. If he goes out and does it this month, he gets a PS5. So that is, I think, happening tomorrow. So there's a PS5 on the line if he breaks the course record. So guys, make sure you tune into that video. PS5, not PSA. What the heck? PS5. PSA 5? Did I say PSA 5?
Yeah.
Did I?
Yeah,
We knew it.
yeah, you did. Too many sports cards.
I'm intertwining the two. PSA 5 might be nasty though. That might be the new. That might be next level. All right. Let's see what else we got here. Who won trivia today, Edwin? Let's see who. Shout out to whoever won. If you guys don't know, before the show starts, which is now, this is kind of open to everyone, so free for all. But before the show starts, about 5 or 10 minutes before the show starts, every Tuesday night, Edwin Stats is in the comments. He poses up a trivia question for everyone. First one to answer the trivia question gets a Frisbee. If you want to see what Frisbee is on the line, you can go to our Instagram or go to our Twitter account beforehand. It's only for Tour Life. I stand corrected. Sorry. Only for Tour Life. Someone gets a Frisbee. So I'll get the winner here for a second. We can do a shout out. What's our merch looking like? Did we hit the number we were trying to get, you, Silas?
Yeah. So last week we wanted to hit 450.
Yeah.
We did it. We hit 450. Boom. So we're at 457.
Yeah.
And we're almost to 500, which is
500,
huge.
Yuli. That's insane.
That's crazy.
I think
PSA 500.
PSA 500. I think we need to get back in the lab, Silas, and whip up some new designs, I think is what we need to do. But that was a fun one tonight, Yuli. A long one.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
It was a long one, but it was fun. I hope you guys all enjoyed it at home, listening to one of the legends of the game and someone that should be talked about more. His story should be passed along, and his advice, I think he gave a lot of really good advice for not just even like amateurs listening, but to also, if pros do end up listening to this, I think he gave a lot of stuff that we can walk away from.
Absolutely.
So that was fantastic. Yuli, good luck this weekend, brother. Hope you go out there and shred it. Good luck with the shoulder. Silas, good show. And all you guys, thank you all so much, and we'll see you next week.